To the new United States of America where everything is legal, including tampering. That's right. Free agency frenzy comes up next. 3 hours with Fran Duffy, Zach Berman in studio talking about the Eagles and the rest of the league, everything that's happening. Let's go. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the PHLY Eagles podcast, Free Agency Frenzy. We are here for the long run. Bo Wulf, Fran Duffy, the only two people who care about this show. That's right. No Zach Berman. Ha, ha, ha. Just kidding. Zach is, of course, boots on the ground at the NovaCare Complex. Saquon Barkley doing his press conference to celebrate his extension. So we will hear from Zach shortly. When that's done, he's going to run as fast as he can from there to here and join us for the rest of the show. Lots to talk about. Fran, how was your weekend? What are you expecting over the next 3 hours?
I'm expecting, obviously, look, it's been a flurry of news around the NFL for the last 2 days. My weekend was good. Spent some time in the yard yesterday, got a little cleanup done, and spent a lot of time with Francis over the weekend. It was great.
Lovely.
How about you?
It was very nice. Yeah, just good weekend with the four of us.
Nice.
Only the four of us for, a little bit longer.
Yeah.
So you got to soak it in.
How are Casey and Jane taking that?
They're good. They're very excited.
Yeah, that's great.
Okay, lots to talk about. Now, I do expect that this 3 hours for the Eagles is going to be relatively quiet.
Yes.
Probably a reason that they scheduled the Saquon Barkley press conference for the same time.
The timing is probably not by accident.
I don't think that that's an accident. Probably, I would say definitely more people going than coming. However, they might make a few moves on the margins, and they'll monitor to see if there are guys who they like whose prices are amenable, a guy like Azeez Ojulari, for instance. But around the league, obviously a flurry of moves, as you alluded to. What did you think was the most interesting thing from this weekend? Lots of stuff.
Probably the complete reorganization of the Seattle Seahawks offense.
Bizarre, right?
Yeah, I mean, Geno Smith and DK Metcalf both shipped out. Tyler Lockett reportedly released last week. So, yeah, I would say that was probably the biggest thing in terms of biggest surprise over the last couple of days. Some tangential Eagles news.
Okay, let's hear it
already. This is Hassan Reddick, 1-year deal, $14 million to the Tampa Bay Bucks.
Really?
Todd Bowles, Temple connection coming through for him.
Interesting. Okay, well maybe that means the Eagles get the backfill of Joe Tryon-Shoyinka or Anthony Nelson.
There you go, your
as
boy.
we talked about. Where are you seeing that? Because
I'm on Blue Sky. I'm on Blue Sky right now.
That's on Blue Sky
because
that's the only place that's working right now. Which not ideal timing for the people who are running our world right now.
Maybe they've got other things on their mind.
Yeah, of course. Okay. Reddick to the Bucks. Interesting. What an interesting ride it's been for Hassan Reddick. Thinking back to a year ago when he and Josh Sweat were still here, and then they signed Bryce Huff, and you're thinking, okay, who's going? And then of course he had a very bizarre year with the Jets.
To say the least. Yeah, obviously ended up reporting late. Yeah, it was a weird year. Not exactly what Hassan Reddick imagined, I would say, a year ago before the trade. But we'll see. I mean, look, in Tampa, I like that fit with Todd Bowles. I think schematically makes a lot of sense for him. And this is a team that won the South last year. And so they're going to try and see if they can try and build on that here moving forward. Joe Tryon-Shoyinka, a free agent, like you mentioned, Anthony Nelson. So we'll see what else they do defensively.
Interesting stuff. Okay, what did you make of the Seahawks moves? Because I get moving on from Geno.
Yep.
In order to make room for Sam Darnold doesn't make a lot of sense to me. It's not very exciting, but maybe Darnold's money is a little cheaper than Geno's.
He's younger.
Yeah, but I don't know. You're not winning anything with Sam Darnold, but
you would probably make the argument that I would say they're in the same bucket from a salary tiering standpoint in terms of what Sam Darnold is likely to get versus what Geno Smith is at right now and likely to get if they redo his deal in Vegas. But I think when you're looking at it, you say, okay, schematically with Kubiak coming in, Darnold might be a little bit of a better fit there. And if you're getting a younger option at a similar pay scale, that's the only way I would kind of make sense of that if they're able to get Darnold. It seems like all signs pointing that's where he's going to end up.
A super chat from Arthur Bo Wulf Smith. Shout out. Now, by the way, we're going to be here for a long time.
Yeah.
Buckle in, get yourself a drink, get yourself some food, settle in, and make sure that you participate with the super chats. He wants to know, he says, Dallas Goedert 2025 feels like Darius Slay in 2023.
Right.
He says, why not do the same thing? He gets 2 years of guaranteed money at a reasonable AAV, while the Eagles get a reduced cap burden in 25-26. I don't know if that's exactly how it will play out. And I do think that is probably the most interesting Eagles thing we may find out today, is what's the Dallas Goedert situation. But I do think that this reminds me a lot of like the Josh Sweat situation from last year. And I think the Slay in 2023 is the right situation where it's like, okay, listen, we're not going to give you the money you want.
Yep.
Go ahead, see if you can get it elsewhere. And you might find that it's not there. And then you're going to come back and we'll be happy to have you.
Sweat last year.
That's what I was saying.
Yeah. And then I think that's what you're looking at. Josh Sweat last year. You look at Slay from a couple years ago. I think that's all the right ballpark in terms of what we're seeing play out here with Dallas Goedert. And look, I get it. I mean, you're talking about a player that, when healthy, and I've said this before, and I'll stand by this, like when Dallas Goedert is healthy and out in the field, he's a top 5 tight end in football. You know, when you look at the impact he can have both as a pass catcher and as a run blocker, it's hard to find a player that can bring both to the level that Dallas does. But when he had 2 IR stints this year, so that's at least 8 games he missed this year. You go back to last year, he had an IR stint. The year before, I believe he had an IR stint. So this is a guy who's missed multiple games for over the last multiple years. That's a tough sell to try and give him top dollar. I get both sides of it. So, the Eagles are obviously allowing him to try and see, like, okay, what is that value going to be?
Yeah, I mean, last 3 years, he hasn't played more than 14 games in a season. Now, 14 was plenty. That was last year. But 12 in 2022 and 10 last year. Like, you need him to be more available. On the flip side, it's not like they have a plan there right now without him. They're not going to get somebody in free agency who's going to matter. Yes, it's a great tight end draft class we hear, and you can assume you're going to get somebody, but that's not guaranteed. You can, as you said, I can sort of see it both ways, but I sort of feel like given their window, it would be a little bit too cute to just move on.
Yeah, I don't think that they can make a deal until the draft. Like to me, like I think you're looking at it as like, all right, we're going to see what the market is out there, and unless they get blown away by some kind of deal, I don't think that, I mean, this, like Howie Roseman is not going to go into draft weekend not having an answer for full-time tight end. I don't think it'll be Grant Calcaterra and that's it at tight end going into draft weekend. I think that they would want to have some kind of a fallback option, like, hey, we're going to play a game tomorrow. Like this is how we want to line up. Do you think Grant is enough there where if they were to deal Dallas?
Well, I think it could be a deal like it was. Now, it's not the same in free agency, but I think it could be similar to last year where they go in at tackle or, offensive line.
Right.
And like, we think we're going to get somebody early. We don't. And let's sign Mekhi Becton the next day. I think it could be something like that where if the tight end does not ever fit value and need on their board, then there's a person, but it's not going to be the same way. It's not like there's going to be a veteran tight end who can be your starting tight end week 1. It could be the kind of deal where like, okay, if this doesn't come through, day 3 of the draft, we're making a trade for somebody like that, right?
And that would be that's why I almost feel like you almost have to wait that out. That would be my guess, right? Unless they got blown away by anything, or you let him, let you test the market, you let him test the market, and it might be that it turns out like what Sweat was last year, where it's like, okay, they come to they redo the contract, they give him a little extra money, or maybe they tack on a year, whatever it is, and they redo it and move on.
All right, a couple early pieces of news to add to Hassan Reddick. Chris Godwin back to the Bucks.
Oh wow,
3 years, $66 million, a chance to make 44 million guaranteed at signing. That's according to Ian Rappaport.
So 3 for 66?
3 for 66. 44 guaranteed at signing. So 22 a year.
Yeah, 22 a year. These receivers, man. Because like the contract DK Metcalf got last night from Pittsburgh.
30, right?
30 million. That's north of AJ. He got 33. North of AJ Brown. I mean, Tyreek Hill's at 30.
Saw a very dumb tweet the other day after Christian Kirk was traded about like, okay, now that was the real high watermark of the wide receiver market. It's really going to come back to earth now. People think that like, okay, 3 hours later, Tutu Atwell signs for 110. Like, what league are you watching? The cap continues to go up. they're not going to pay wide receivers less money.
No, I mean, there probably needs to be a 30 for 30 done on that Christian Kirk deal, because that was like the straw that broke the camel's back, because that was the offseason when Christian Kirk got this huge astronomical money, and that's where like Tyreek Hill and Devontae Adams and all these guys were like, all right, well, if Christian Kirk's making this, like I am way worth way more than that, and that's where that market just blew up. That's AJ Brown gets traded, like that whole thing, the cascading effects of that Trent Baalke contract for Christian Kirk. Not enough written about that, but
the other move here.
Okay,
the Chiefs have found their replacement left tackle, and it's a little underwhelming, I think.
Okay, we got
Jaylon Moore. The 49ers. No, that's serious.
They gave him real money?
Yeah.
What'd they give him?
Let's see what the money is. No, it's a real deal. Like, this is the guy who they chose to target.
Okay, so is it north of, or I'll put it this way. Did it reach $14 million a year?
I don't know. I don't have they don't have the numbers out yet.
All right. Because that would be like real money. If they gave him like we'll say, like I'm looking at this. If he got like $8 million, I mean that's still starter money.
Oh, I think it's more than that.
If they gave him more than that would be really surprising. Wow. Yeah, I mean that's your starter. That's surprising. I mean, you are targeting him and project. I mean, clearly targeting, but you are projecting him moving forward.
He's their starting left tackle, unless they draft somebody. You know, they're going to move Sua Matia to left guard. He's going to be their starting left tackle. It's not like the Niners. Now, somebody told me that the Niners were expecting like a big comp pick windfall, like sort of like the Eagles this year, and they mentioned Jaylon Moore. I was like, Jaylon Moore's going to get a bunch. Apparently,
I guess so.
So the Chiefs are choosing him over the likes of Dan Moore or Cam Robinson, which is a little bit interesting. Maybe they think there's some upside there.
Yeah, I mean, look, Jaylon Moore played the last 5 games of this season. Not even the last 5, but he played 5 of the last 7 games this season. He played 340 snaps overall in the year. That's a big projection, but clearly they saw what they liked. I mean, I remember when he came out of Western Michigan, athletic but very raw. Ended up being a 5th round pick out of Western Michigan, and has basically sat in the in the background for San Francisco for most of his career. He gets a big deal, and he also goes against what their type had been, because the Chiefs over the last few years they have been going for the Orlando Browns, Jawan Taylors, Kingsley Sua-Mataias, like these are like 330, 340 pound offensive tackles, tough to get around. Whereas Moore, I mean, he's 310 pounds. He's a little bit leaner. He's 6'4". It's a stark difference from body type. That's also
interesting given the fact that the way that they lost in the Super Bowl was getting run through and overpowered.
So there was a, where did I hear this? I'm trying to remember where I heard this. It was on a podcast I was listening to recently. Someone had been talking with Patrick Mahomes, or people close to Patrick Mahomes, right? And said that Mahomes prefers pressure from they had done so much to build up that interior 3. And he said Mahomes actually prefers the pressure in his face. Whereas a lot of people say like, quarterbacks don't like the pressure in his face. He likes the pressure where he can see it so he can react to it and navigate around it. He doesn't like the edge pressure that's outside of his periphery. So he would rather they spend money at tackle and shore those positions up. This came out after the Joe Thuney trade last week. That's interesting. Man, $15 million a year for Jaylon Moore. I didn't see that coming.
You thought it was going to be Jalen less?
I thought it would be far Jalen less.
Interesting. Super chat from Fresh Prince, who says, would you trade 3 first-round picks for Micah Parsons and pay him a contract at $42 million a year? No.
Just
3 first-round picks? Come on.
I mean, Micah Parsons is really good.
I know he is, but you wouldn't give that for a quarterback.
How young is Micah Parsons still?
26.
I'd think about it. We haven't talked about this on the show yet. We haven't talked about it at all yet. But it was a late Combine Week show after Zach had come back from Indy. You guys did a show together. And they were talking about trade compensation for Myles Garrett. Yeah. And you're like, all right, well, obviously it would take 32, and it'd be more than. And you were saying, it would probably be a first round pick next year. And Zach was like, there's no way. Myles Garrett. Like Myles Garrett, you get to me if you're talking about Micah and you're putting Micah Parsons in that same tier. If you're going to get a great player, like you're going to have to part with another first round pick.
I'm not saying I wouldn't be interested in trading for him,
Yeah.
but 3 first round picks, that's too much.
I'd think about it. I'd have serious conversations.
I think 2. I think 1 and a second that can turn into a first.
I think it's at least 2 1s. Because how old was Ramsey when Ramsey got traded to Jacksonville to LA? At a position it would be at least 2 1s for Parsons.
I don't know. I mean, probably.
Yeah.
But not definitely, and it depends when those picks are. I mean,
yeah. Right. Well, that's the problem too, is that you're having to overpay because you're going to be a good team.
Yeah. They also don't. I mean, realistically, like they're going to have to pay a bunch of other guys. It doesn't really make sense.
No.
But it would be fun.
Would be. 3 years.
Yeah. $230 for Jaylon Moore. New blindside protector for Patrick Mahomes. That's the rating.
That's surprising. Got a long show.
Long way to go. Very exciting.
So I'm working on, this is all like swirling around in my head because I wrote the first couple paragraphs I'm doing my first big board this week.
Yeah, you didn't do enough last week with a 3-round mock draft.
All right. Well, we talked about it on the draft show that it was going to be, so this week will be the big board. And so the player value thing is very much like on like front of mind. Because that is a big part of how I put together my board. And so like all of these huge contracts kind of throw it for a loop because it like changes the scope with which I view positional value. And it's like, all right, well, if Jaylon Moore is worth $15 million a year, that to me, like that's why like offensive tackles, more of them should be going in the first round.
Yeah, this is I don't like playing that game when it comes to the draft.
Yeah.
Of like what's the comparing it to the free agency money, because to me it's so much more important to just get a good player, and to get a young cost controlled player is so much more important than the surplus value calculation. Now, of course, there are like nobody's perfect,
yes,
right? And so you have to bake in that you're not going to be right on 40% of your projections, right? And so if you miss, what is the value? And there's a reason why you don't, you probably shouldn't take a linebacker or a running back in the top 10 of the draft or whatever. But I think you can get too cute, and this is it's the same thing about like trade compensation for a player like DK Metcalf. Like if you're gonna have to trade for him and pay him, like then you can't pay more in draft value. I just think like there's a dearth of good enough players that it's more important to get the good players and then figure it out from there. Like if you, let's say, yeah, sure, a Dan Moore level player is getting paid $15 million, and then I don't know, a similar level player at corner is getting paid, I don't know, call it 10.
Right.
I'd still, if I in the first round get the corner who's better, then I have and that is accounted for, then I have more money to spend on finding a better tackle than the one who I might get in the first round who's worse. I
do agree with everything you just said. And that's why when I started doing it this way, in terms of setting my board up, I was shocked at what basically the NFL tells that story.
Yeah.
Of what you just said. Like when you look at, and you'll see when I put my board out, like there are safeties and running backs and guards significantly higher on a board than you would see, but there's also like the solid starting quarterback. Maybe it doesn't have to be Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes to be worthy of like the number one pick and the number one slot, because there are so many quarterbacks that make excellent. So there are like certain archetypes.
Like Jared Stidham gets $8 million, right? Like, and that's part of why, they kept picking around. Anyway, go ahead.
Well, there are so many like different small archetypes of player. And that was one of the things I wrote last night as I was doing it, was like, all right, it's not just as simple as take every quarterback, edge rusher, tackle, and wide receiver. They all get bumped ahead of the line of every running back, safety, because, all right, would you rather have Patrick Surtain Jr. or would you rather have Gabe Davis? Would you rather, it's the Saquon Barkley versus Gabe Davis thing. The quality of the player at each position matters. And so that gets into the projection and all that. So that's all in the front of my mind.
And there's also stuff about like the strength of your roster to begin with, like, For the Eagles, you'd rather have Saquon Barkley than Gabe Davis, but there are certain teams where if you're just building up from the ground up, like
the Giants,
you need to have
right.
capable players
right.
at more important positions,
right.
and you can't prioritize running back. Anyway, a couple more.
Okay, what do you got?
A couple more deals. Drew Dalman.
All right, so I'm going to guess two. It's one of two teams: Seattle or Chicago.
You nailed it.
Chicago. Wow.
342 with 28 guaranteed becomes the NFL's second highest paid center.
3 for 40.
So they have remade their interior offensive line now. Drew Dalman, Jonah Jackson, Joe Thuney.
Yep.
To protect Caleb Williams. Now, Drew Dalman is a specific type of center.
It's a small, athletic, undersized center. Yes.
And so obviously that's fine with Ben Johnson, but he's different than Frank Ragnow.
No question.
Right.
And so you're going to lean on Ben Johnson's ability to say, like, okay, we are going to lean into what each of these guys' skill sets are. Joe Thuney, undersized, technically savvy, like not overly powerful or athletic, like good enough across the board.
Yeah, that's two sort of undersized-ish guys in the interior. Usually you want just one.
Right. Jonah Jackson, big, powerful, mauling type. And then you've got Dalman in the middle of that. So, yeah, but that's completely redoing that front three.
Okay. And the other big one here?
Okay.
Braxton Berrios.
Big one. And
going to the Texans for 1 for 2.
Okay.
1 year for $2 million. I thought Berrios was a possibility for the Eagles if they let Britton Covey go.
Okay.
Just as so that they don't have to rely on Cooper DeJean as the punt returner.
That did make it into quackatology, though.
Did not make it into quackatology. No.
Are you upset that Macatology is no longer?
You know what? I never really thought it was going to happen.
Really?
Because the Chargers have so much money.
And Bosa, they let go of Bosa.
Right. It felt odd to me that they would let both go.
Right.
But I also think that the Eagles would have definitely been interested if he made it all the way to noon.
Are you rabbit-earsed up for any specific position Eagles-wise today?
Well, good question. Julia, are our graphics ready? Okay.
Ooh.
We have 3 positions and then all of offense. So let's start with the edge. Because I do think probably if I had to pick, if you told me the Eagles are going to sign one player in the next 48 hours at more than $5 million a year, my guess would be edge.
Edge rusher, I agree.
I think it makes the most sense.
Yep.
You've got Nolan Smith. You've got Jalix Hunt.
Yep.
Right now, you don't have anything else. Brandon Graham could potentially return. You have Bryce Huff in the building
for
now. I think it's more likely than not that he stays, but still, they can't rely on him.
Right.
And those are all, Nolan Smith and Bryce Huff are similar size-ish.
Yeah.
Nolan Smith plays like one of the most physical guys in football, but there's a case to be made that invites injury a little bit. It happened in the Super Bowl.
Yep.
You need depth there.
And he was banged up last year. He was banged up in camp. That's becoming a recurring
He's
theme.
a little bit just part of the body and the way that he plays.
Yep.
And this is a place where there are plenty of mercenary type guys available and a couple young players. So I have 10 edges here for us to monitor. Let's check out the edge guys. Now, the top of that list.
Yep.
Okay, we took out. Look at you editing on the fly.
Hassan
Reddick is gone. Azeez Ojulari at the top.
Okay.
To me, Azeez Ojulari is the guy, if they're going to make some kind of surprising long-term investment, he would be the one.
Fits the profile from Georgia.
Yeah, they've got all these touch points, the Georgia stuff. They have seen him.
Yep.
I think he's a good player.
I agree, too. I agree.
I know you liked him a lot coming out.
I was upset's a strong word, but I was pro Azeez Ojulari over the Landon Dickerson pick at the time. Yes.
And I think it's a good compliment to the things that they have here.
Yes.
That would be to me if they're going to make a signing today, like a young player, he would make sense.
From that list, I would agree with you.
Malcolm Kuntz from the Las Vegas Raiders, a very, very good third year in 2023, then missed all of last season with an injury. I could see the Eagles monitoring what the market is and maybe pouncing, but something tells me he would get more somewhere else. I could be wrong about that.
I mean, coming off the injury because he didn't play down this year, got hurt last summer. Is he a guy who could just get a 1-year prove-it deal off the injury?
Sure,
maybe,
very possible. And also, he would view that as a chance to get a big deal next year.
Boom. Yep.
Or this could be a chance where listen, the Eagles prefer to not have to pay at the peak of a guy's value. This could be someone who they think you're getting a chance to just get a good deal on.
Right.
After that, you go Chase Young, who to me, I don't view as a match for the Eagles. I think for a couple reasons. One, the style of player that he is.
Yep.
I also think you could overrate this stuff, but I think the things that they think about the type of fit he would be in the locker room, I think they're not interested.
Yeah.
To a certain degree.
I would agree.
We talked about Joe Tryon-Shoyinka from the Bucs. This would be kind of the kind of signing where you could still draft over this player,
right?
But you could line up tomorrow and play. He can do a couple different roles. Good early down player who hasn't really developed the pass rush juice that you were hoping for when he was drafted in the first 2 rounds. But maybe you get him in the Jeremiah Washburn development program, and you can get a little more out of him.
Right. Yeah. And I think, and we'll say say the same thing about Anthony Nelson. But both guys very experienced dropping back and reverse. They could do a lot of the different things that Vic Fangio wants schematically from those guys on the edge.
Yes, Anthony Nelson, I like.
Yes. You professed your love for him last week on Quackatology.
Yeah. Listen, I'm a married man, but were I not, Anthony Nelson would be intriguing.
You have your hand. Okay.
Yeah, he moves so well for how big he is. Was asked to do a lot in coverage. Had some really good rushes against Jordan Mailata last year.
Right.
I think probably a little more pass rush juice than Tryon right now, but maybe not as good against the run.
It's probably fair. I think that, and obviously look, Tryon-Shoyinka, a little more athletically gifted, a little bit younger.
Yeah. DeMarcus Lawrence, 33 years old, coming off of Liz Frank.
Former Cowboy.
The Cowboy stink is worse.
Yeah.
It's probably of the 3 teams in the division, the Eagles have had the least success.
Correct.
Bringing in Cowboys. I think, that's unlikely. Matthew Judon, 33 years old. His efficiency numbers really dropped off last year. But if you're thinking about, who can play the Brandon Graham role of 10, 15 snaps a game and give you some juice as a power rusher, then that could make some sense.
Yeah, his obviously look. He got traded for a 3rd-round pick. 8 months ago.
Yeah.
So there's at least one team viewed him as valuable, but the numbers were not very good this year in Atlanta.
2 more here. Dante Fowler.
Yep.
Who, as I wrote in the write-up for the free agency preview, if you had told me Dante Fowler was 26 years old, I would believe you. If you told me that he was 35 years old, I would believe you. I feel like Dante Fowler to me could have been. I have no sense of time when it comes to Dante Fowler. He's been all over the league.
Yep.
Is he a 4-year veteran or a 15-year veteran? I don't know.
He
young
had a very good year
last
promising. And honestly, he's been really good in that role for Dan Quinn. It would surprise me that Washington would let him go just because he's been so good for Dan Quinn over the last few years in Dallas and then last year in Washington.
And then finally, Joe Osai from the Cincinnati Bengals. If you're looking for a guy who could be better on the second contract than the first contract, he's only 25 years old. His pass rush numbers are actually quite good on a how often did he hit the quarterback basis in 2024 for the Bengals, and that team doesn't pay people, so that explains why he's on the market.
Correct. And I think that he's a player that fits the profile in terms of like young, can do a little bit of everything. Best football may be ahead of him, as you mentioned. Like the organizational malpractice might be a little bit of a strong word, but just a good team, a good organization probably doesn't let him get through the cracks. I do think you can question whether or not he's that great of a player. Obviously, that defense struggled in a big way this past year, but if you're bringing him in to be a rotational piece, I think he could do worse.
I see. Now here's the thing that's going on with Twitter right now.
Okay.
I'm getting some alerts,
right?
But I can't open Twitter.
Open it up. Right.
And so I see it. I see the alert from Adam Schefter that B.J. Hill has signed a 3-year deal with, but I can't find out who.
It's beautiful. What a country. What a world we live in. Let me open up Blue Ski.
B.J. Hill.
B.J. Hill is a solid, gap shooting defensive tackle. Let's see. Yeah, I got nothing. I'm going to rap sheets.
Feels like the
Blue Sky.
Bengals.
He's
back
to
Cincinnati.
To the Bengals. Back to Cincinnati.
Okay. I think I should leave my B.J. Hill jokes for later.
It's big of you. Yeah, maybe that's an hour
when
two.
Zach
an
comes
hour
in,
two
that's an hour 2 conversation. Yeah. Stay tuned. Remind me in the chat at, let's call it 2:23. If somebody reminds me at 2:23, sets an alarm, I will make Zach uncomfortable with a B.J. Hill joke.
But here's the problem. Here's what's going to happen on Blue Sky. There's this huge ground. Apparently, like users are like flocking to Blue
Right.
Sky
So
right now.
now that's going to crash.
Blue Sky's going to crash at some point this afternoon. Yeah, so it's going to be good.
That's exciting.
We'll be back to 2007.
Yeah.
Zach's on his way, by the way.
Zach is on his way. I wonder what he's going to say from the Saquon Barkley press conference.
Yeah, like I said, the timing. I don't think it was by accident there.
There's going to be a lot of buildup for this. I don't really have a BJ Hill joke cooked. It's just
you got some time. Better think of something during an ad break or something.
all right. How about you? What do you think? If the Eagles add somebody, do you think it will be edge?
I think it's edge.
Okay.
That would be the spot. I mean, the other player, like Dre'Mont Jones, would be the other one that would make some sense, right? In that, he's got experience with Clint Hurt. He's got experience with Vic Fangio. Had his best year under Vic Fangio. You lose Milton Williams. You want somebody that has that inside-outside flexibility, which that's what he brings. He played off the edge last year or the last 2 years for Seattle. I think that would be the other one to look at. I think that would make some sense. It doesn't hurt you in the comp pick game. I think it checks a lot of boxes.
Javon Kinlaw has signed a deal. You want to guess?
Okay.
This one you could figure out.
Okay. I could figure out, which means that it's someone where he's got some familiarity. Did he go to the Atlanta Falcons?
No.
Didn't follow Jeff Ulbrich there. Okay. Didn't go back to San Francisco.
No.
But. Okay, but he's somewhere else in the NFC West.
No.
Okay.
But someone who left San Francisco to run a team.
Oh, you're going to the New Orleans Saints. Oh, to run a team.
And just released their long-term defensive
Washington.
tackle. Yes.
Adam Peters.
Yes.
Very nice.
Javon Kinlaw to the Commanders.
I would assume a 1 year deal.
I don't know.
This is beautiful.
It's too long. The tweet is too long.
Let me see if I can find something here.
Kinlaw had a productive year with the Jets last year and did okay.
Nothing in terms of contract details out yet.
We can take a look at the list of the top defensive tackles still available. If we want to do that, Julia.
Whoa.
Well, you got a big one?
He got 3 years for $45 million? Man. Wow.
Yeah.
Washington's got a lot of money.
Crazy.
Washington's got a lot of money, but what? They just spent a second-round pick on Johnny Newton last year. You got all the money to Payne. You just moved on from Allen. Curious.
Interesting. All right, let's take a look at those defensive tackles available.
Okay.
I think we start with
Jones,
$345 for 30 guaranteed. Okay, Dre'Mont Jones. Now you'll see the stars there for Dre'Mont Jones and Grady Jarrett. That means that those guys were released by their former teams. They're street free agents, which means, importantly, that they do not qualify for the compensatory pick formula. If you are just joining us and want to know what that means, good question. Jonathan Allen on there as well.
Yep.
Listen, the Eagles are most likely going to play this comp pick game. And how it works is like the amount of money a player signs for, with a formula also involving how many snaps they play. If you have more outlay than inlay, you're going to get picks in the 2026 draft, depending on the prices of those. And so you expect that Milton Williams is going to probably qualify for that third, fourth round, that top tier, because he's probably going to make $23 million a year, something like that, right?
Yep.
So the Eagles are counting on that. Josh Sweat is also going to make a high qualifying number. Mekhi Becton might sign one that's a 5th or 6th round pick. There's a possibility that even like Isaiah Rodgers is signing a deal on the very low end. And so they can sign one guy or two guys, but if they sign someone who cancels out one of them, Milton Williams or Josh Sweat deals, that's less likely, because I think they want those picks next year, not just so that they could use them next year, but so that maybe then they could trade the 3rd round pick they already own in the summer.
Yep.
If it comes to addressing a roster need, that's what they did with Jahan Dotson this year. They like to have those baked in their coffer. So Dre'Mont Jones does not qualify, has experience with Vic Fangio. That will make him a little bit more attractive than a player like Levi Onwuzurike. who is younger and maybe more ascending, but is going to cost real money and would cancel that out.
Yeah, I'm honestly surprised that a guy like Onwuzurike was able to hit the market. Really disruptive player. Look, they essentially had to pick between him and Aleem McNeil. Knowing that they had some other young contracts coming up on the books coming down the pipe here. My guess is that Onwuzurike would go up to New York and play for Aaron Glenn and for the Jets, especially Kinlaw now at the door for 3 for 45. But I think when you're looking at Onwuzurike, Treshaun Wharton is a player that has kind of caught my eye. Really came. I was a former undrafted free agent and just saw his effectiveness increase every single year for Kansas City. Became a starter and a full-time player for them this year. He's another one that I'm a little surprised his at the market. He's a little bit older, but I think when you're looking at Wharton, he would be another player that I would expect would have a nice market.
Yeah, I would think so too.
Yeah.
Javon Hargrave is on there. He should actually have the star as well. He would not qualify. He's 32. Probably a cautionary tale about paying a lot of money for a 30-year-old.
Third contract.
Free agent. But if the Eagles could get him on their fourth contract, he would make a little bit of sense. BJ Hill just signed. Javon Kinlaw just signed. Poona Ford, love that body type for a defensive tackle. I love a short, squatty guy. Had some pass rush juice this year. And then Bobby Brown III from the Rams, 25 years old, a pure nose tackle, does not play on third down. And that brings to mind the conversation, Fran, about the fifth-year option for Jordan Davis, which I think is going to be an interesting thing for the Eagles this year. And I was of the opinion that there's no chance they would do it. Well, not that they would, but that they should.
Right.
Just because he plays 35% of the snaps, and the fifth-year option's like $13 million. That's too much. But then you see like DJ Jones, who's a similar type player for the Broncos. He signed a deal that's worth that amount of money. I'm starting to wonder if the Eagles will exercise his fifth-year option.
Yeah, my guess is they don't. Would be my guess.
I still think it's less likely, but
I see what you're saying, and that's what's interesting. I mean, like again, the Kinlaw making 15 a year.
Yeah.
The thing is that like I want to look at like snap count percentages. Like
those DJ Jones was low. Like DJ Jones was at like a Jordan Davis level, I think.
Yeah. The thing is that DJ Jones is he's an awesome run defender.
Yeah.
Jordan Davis has awesome snaps as a run defender, but not as consistently dominant to the way that he should be. I still think he can be that, but we're still waiting for that, right? And I think that's the difference. And you might also look at that as saying okay, if we don't give him that option, is that a motivating factor? Is that something to kind of kick him into gear? That might be something they might be willing to try as well. Like, hey, we want to pay you this, but we want you to prove it to us too.
You got to prove it. Yeah, I think it's interesting, and it's also like their internal evaluation of Jordan Davis 1 year with getting to play for Vic Fangio. When we thought in the summer his snaps were going to rise, and they didn't.
Right,
which probably tells you that Vic didn't think that he was ready to make that jump. Will tell you they will tell us a lot by what they do in free agency and the draft. If they don't add guys of significance, and they're happy to go with Ujima on third down and Jordan Davis playing a little bit more, that will be interesting. We saw a little more pass rush juice from him in the playoffs. He had a sack in the Super Bowl and another one earlier in the playoffs.
Right.
But it's been 3 years. Defensive tackles take a long time.
Yeah, can take a long time. Yeah.
If I could ask the Eagles about what they think of a player on their roster, I think that would be the most interesting answer to me. Like what they truly think about a player.
Yeah. That's what's interesting about it is that it's kind of what we've talked about a little bit, in that I think there are still believers in the building about Jordan Davis. Is the upside ever going to reach the 14th overall pick price tag?
Probably not, and that's
Probably
okay.
not.
Right, that's not important right now.
Not exactly. That ship has sailed. You already spent that price. He's in the building. He's been in there for 3 years now. But I still think that there's the hope that he can turn into an every down player and a dominant run defender, and maybe a guy that you still ideally take off the field on pass downs, but he can still give you enough there to warrant being out there for 3 downs. So, yeah, I mean, I could absolutely, even if they don't pick up the option, I still think it's very much within the realm of possibility that he ends up re-signing on a 2 or 3 year deal and a solid contract, and he's extended. I don't think that them not giving him the option means he's going to be out the door after next year.
I agree with that. I think the question is, would you, if you were let's say it was Madden, and you can like work on Jordan Davis's skills and improve him in one area. Would you want him to bring more pass rush juice so he can stay on the field on third down, or would you rather he becomes like a truly dominant first and second down player?
Good question.
I think
probably the latter. I think so.
Because I think it's more replaceable to be able to find a guy who can bring third down juice, than a guy who can truly dominate on first and second.
If you're going to say that he's going to be a consistently dominant force inside, but you're still going to take him off the field on third down, I would say, give me that. Yeah, I like that. That's a good question. What do you think Zach would say to that answer?
I don't know.
We'll ask him. We'll ask him in 20 minutes.
The Chiefs adding one of my favorite guys, Elijah Mitchell. So they're just adding all kinds of former Niners. The running back. And then it looks like the Patriots, with all this money to spend and nobody to take their money, are instead giving it to Bobby Spills, the Las Vegas Raiders linebacker, Robert Spillane.
Yeah, nice player, run and chase player, a little bit of an undersized linebacker. I'll be interested to see what the compensation is there. But I could see that fit in in that defense up there with Mike Vrabel. Hopefully they can get Christian Barmore back healthy. He missed this year due to the blood clot situation that he had in his legs. But I think when you're looking at the way that defense is built, having a run and chase player like Spillane, who's a solid player, I don't think that's a bad deal. What do you think of Nick Bolton contract? Came in just under Baun.
I think that's probably good business.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not as good of a player, but he's like
player.
the next level.
He's a good player.
Yeah, he's a very good player, and he's younger. I think that seemed like a good deal.
I was
business
fine with that.
by then.
Yeah, I was fine with that contract. And again, like he's in that same block as Baun, and I'm fine with that.
You loved him coming out.
Yes, that's a good example of what we were talking about earlier, because everyone was like, "Oh, it's a linebacker." If he's that player, he is worth a top 30 pick.
Yeah.
That's exactly what we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, interesting.
He's a good player.
I think we had another super chat that we missed before. Jake Beckman says, "Tired, make out mountain, wired, BJ Hill." That's it. That's the joke. You got it. Yeah, I mean, it's like the kind of fairy tale you might hear about in 8th grade or something like that.
BJ Hill.
Yeah. There's this place. You're not going to believe what they have there. Okay. How about cornerback?
Okay.
Which is another very interesting situation for the Eagles. The Jaguars are signing Jordan Lewis, according to
Jaguars
Ian Rappaport. He becomes the NFL's highest paid nickel corner.
Wow.
Okay. Man. Congratulations to the Jaguars for another losing season. Cornerback is very interesting. So, internally, I think the Eagles feel very good about Kelee Ringo. I think they would like Kelee Ringo to be their third starting corner next season.
Agreed.
But they have to be prepared for the possibility that he doesn't earn that job.
Yep.
Or, if somebody gets injured and they need another guy. I think Isaiah Rodgers would make a lot of sense to bring back. But if his market outpaces what the Eagles think he's worth, and even if he becomes a comp pick qualifier, maybe you can sign somebody for less money who doesn't qualify and can play that same role. I think the Eagles would like to bring in someone who is like a low bar for Kelee Ringo to clear.
Do you treat it like you treated Tyler Steen last year?
Something like that.
As someone,
I think that's right.
You hope Ringo is able to compete,
right,
and potentially win that job. But if not, that's okay.
Right. The flip side is if the Eagles are going to make a splash, this is a place where it would make a little bit of sense if it's a short-term deal. Let a Charvarius Ward type.
Yep.
Who comes in on a 1 year, like $15 million deal. He's just here for 1 year. Kelee Ringo continues to grow.
Yep.
Remember, Kelee Ringo is a year younger than Quinyon Mitchell.
Right.
I think it's a place where it would make a little bit of sense, especially because this class of free agents, corner is actually one of the few spots where there is a little bit of depth. So it's a possibility. I think this is one where the Eagles are not going to sign someone today at corner, I guess.
Yeah, right.
But if the market lingers and by the end of the week there's someone available for a reasonable price, they could value shop here. And I think we do have a list of the top 10 corners on the market for the Eagles potentially. And it starts with DJ Reed, 28 years old.
He's probably going to get a decent contract.
I like these guys. I think are going to be out of their price range. Charvarius Ward, who we mentioned, only because he's a little older.
Yep.
I think could make a little bit of sense and take a 1 year deal. Carlton Davis, not a very good fit, man-heavy guy, right?
Yeah,
And we'll get a bigger deal.
Yep.
28 years old. Byron Murphy, 27, Pro Bowl season. Inside-outside versatility. Eagles did not have a lot of interest in him when he was a free agent a couple of years ago.
Right.
My guess is he gets paid somewhere else.
Decent money, yep.
Asante Samuel Jr. is interesting to me. At 25 years old, a young player.
Yep.
And, would make sense in zone. Has those instincts. I don't know if he's physical enough for Vic Fangio.
I would agree. I'd be interested to see, he's a pure off coverage corner. The Eagles in the second half of the year, as that defense took off, really one of those guys to play up close to the line of scrimmage. Do you like him better inside or outside? These are all questions you'd have to ask with Asante Samuel Jr. The story would be fun.
Yes, of course. Paulson Adebo.
I love Adebo.
And I think could make some sense, but probably is going to get more money than that.
Yeah,
Coming off a nasty broken femur, which Zach told us is no big deal at all. Christian Fulton, 26 years old, had a bounce back season with the Chargers.
Yeah.
Rasul Douglas, 30 years old, old friend. Actually, probably a good scheme fit.
I was going to say that one probably fits your bar, right?
Yeah, that's sort of like the almost the perfect type signing. Benjamin Sanz-Josta, as you told us, not a great scheme fit. And then Eric Stokes.
I think I would put him in the same bucket as St. Juice.
Yes, and is the Georgia background. All right.
Yes.
We're going to take a quick break so that we can bring in a friend to the middle seat as we hear from our sponsors. Tell you about our friends at Bet365. Come on in, get your seat, dude. Here we go. Bet365. Oh, it's Fran. Fran, do you want to come in the middle?
Sure.
Okay. Zach doesn't want to sit next to me. It's too awkward. Bet365 has 90 million users worldwide, and they live stream over 780,000 events each year with early payout offers across the NBA and NHL. Bet365 pioneered live in-game betting, and today they offer the widest range of games and markets available for live in-game betting across 78 sports. New customers now get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5 win or lose. Sign up, use the code PHLY365, deposit $10, and place a bet for $5 to get that $150 in bonus bets. Again, win or lose. Tomorrow is NBA Tip-Off Tuesday. That's another Bet365 NBA Tip-Off Tuesday. Place qualifying parlay bets totaling $20 or more on tonight's NBA games and get up to $25 in bonus bets. Terms and conditions apply. New customers now get $150 in bonus bets when you bet $5 win or lose. Sign up, use the code PHLY365, deposit $10, and place a bet for $5 to get $150 in bonus bets if your bet wins or loses. Bonus bets can be used on the spread, totals, player props, futures, and more. Whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Must be 21 or older and physically located in Pennsylvania. If you or someone you know has a gambling problem and wants help, call 1-800-GAMBLER.
Our friends at Rite Aid, because look, this is we're a pro-vaccination podcast.
I'd say so.
And look, pneumonia is something that is absolutely something that you need to be taken seriously. I have a family member that was hospitalized with pneumonia last year, an older family member. And it's just because it doesn't impact you doesn't mean that it can't impact others around you. So help protect yourself and others from pneumonia. Adults aged 50 and older are now eligible for the vaccine. It was previously for people over 65, but the CDC lowered the age recommendation to 50 years old. Millions of people get pneumonia every single year, according to the CDC. It's a respiratory illness, and fall and winter are a time when germs that cause the respiratory disease typically spread more in the community. So now is the time to get vaccinated and help yourself and others, again, stay healthy. Some people who get pneumonia have mild symptoms, but others experience serious complications. Again, I had a family member that was hospitalized for multiple weeks with this a year ago. The vaccine is one of the best ways to help keep yourself healthy. It's usually no cost with insurance. Getting vaccinated is easy. Just walk into your local Rite Aid or schedule online at riteaid.com. Unsure of what vaccinations you may need? Just ask your pharmacist for a personal recommendation. Stop by your local Rite Aid today.
The Rams are bringing back Jimmy Garoppolo on a one-year deal to be Matthew Stafford's backup. Please welcome to the studio the man himself with a fresh fade, Zack Berman. How you doing?
Doing great. Excited to see you guys. Excited to be here on the day of the opening negotiation period, the tampering period, however you want to frame it. This is one of the fun days on the NFL calendar. Nowhere else I'd rather be than with you guys.
Well, I mean, you literally didn't join the first 50 minutes of the show because you were somewhere else you wanted to be.
Oh, well, nowhere else I'd rather spend the next 2 hours than with you
Okay.
guys.
Now that the Saquon
Okay.
Barkley press conference is done, now there's nowhere else you'd rather
It was
be.
nice spending time with Saquon today, for
Tell
sure.
us what happened.
Yeah, so Saquon Barkley, who signed his contract,
Yep.
spoke quite a bit about his legacy here in Philly, why he wanted to be here. He said this in an interview before, but he said he never said this with us, the assembled Philly media, that he's a big fan of Marshall Faulk. He talks to Marshall Faulk quite a bit. And when you think of Marshall Faulk, you think of the Rams. You don't necessarily think of the Colts. And so he kind of used that parallel for his career. I asked him about this past year in his life, like it's kind of like this big parallel that a year ago on tampering period he signs, or he agrees to a deal, and now here he is a year later agreeing to a record-breaking deal, and kind of the perspective of this past year in his life. And he said it's not just this past year. What he thinks about really, it goes back to when he was with the Giants and he did not accept the franchise tag. And he thinks about that. He thinks about gambling on himself. He thinks about coming here last year. He thinks about gambling on himself. He thinks about all that happened during this past year. And he says when he reflects on this year and the big lesson he'll have for like the rest of his life and what he'll tell his kids is about betting on yourself. And that's kind of what he thinks about from this past year. He asked how this deal came about, and he said, he wasn't upset when the Eagles came to him with it, right? He was happy with it. It kind of shows what the Eagles think. It's a great organization, top to bottom. It's where he wants to be. I asked him about the running back market, kind of what this means for the running back market. And he says that he doesn't understand why like running backs prices can't keep going up like every other position. And that he heard from a lot of running backs since then. He said the guy who was most excited was James Cook. The one who reached out was James Cook. But he said, Bijan Robinson and Jamar Gibbs, he's hoping they break this mark. He spoke about, like I said, his legacy in Philly. He spoke about what this offseason is going to be like and kind of different ways he can take care of himself and things that he can improve on from last year. He said he can't hold the ball in his left arm as much as he did last year.
Why?
Probably it's more prone to getting, if he's running to his right and it's in the left, it's more prone to getting stripped.
Okay.
Right? He mentioned his left arm, so I imagine that's the inside arm. You're supposed to hold it on your outside arm, correct?
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So he mentioned he holds it in his left arm too much.
Okay.
I would have to go back and I guess track how many times he held it in
Well,
his
it's
left.
interesting you
It
said
was
the
right.
left and not the inside.
Yeah, he said his left arm.
Right. As if he has an injury there or something like that. But I don't know.
And then he spoke about, I asked him about getting a chance to enjoy the Super Bowl, and he said there's a lot of footage out there of him enjoying it.
Yeah.
Like everyone saw that he kind of let loose. And he talked about the ring ceremony and going to the White House, and those are like the next things where you really feel like you're being recognized as a Super Bowl champ. But he said he always envisioned it, and he doesn't want to say it's not what he expected, but he always envisioned winning the Super Bowl. He said the only thing in his life that kind of exceeded what he thought in his life it would be was
Parenthood.
having a baby. He said because when he was growing up, he didn't think about like a baby coming out.
Okay.
Right? This is his words, not mine.
Wait, does he mean, is he talking about being a father or the physical thing of actual birth?
The day you become a father, right?
Okay.
The experiencing childbirth.
Okay.
Yeah. He says that's not something that he had thought about when he was a kid. But like that's the thing that
I can't tell still if we're talking about just getting a baby or like the actual, like witnessing
The act of
the miracle of childbirth.
witnessing the miracle of childbirth.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah. Like being there to become a father, right? What he was referring to. That feeling exceeded his
Okay,
expectations.
so the feeling, not the. I'm still.
Am I not explaining it correctly?
Yeah, I still can't understand which one you mean. Like the
Being
overwhelming
in the
emotion,
hospital.
or like, oh my god.
Yeah, I interpret it as the emotion, not like I can't imagine the spectacle was.
Well, that's what I thought
think
you meant.
He meant the way he felt when it was happening.
Okay.
Yeah, that's how I interpreted it.
Okay.
And
It was a very. I think I've told this story several times before, but when before our first child was born. You know, you did the full like childbirth class. It's
Yep.
like a 3-hour deal on a weekend
Yeah,
or
yeah.
whatever. And then they show the video that's like the full. This is exactly what it looks like. You know, the full childbirth video. And me and Rachel were sitting in the back, and the video's over, and the woman's like, "All right, we're gonna break for lunch now," and like, we just started cracking up. Like, this was the pre-lunch, this was the appetizer. Like, all right,
We had a guy in ours nearly pass out in the back row.
really?
I was like, man, you're
got a long way to
go, bud.
During the child birth, like not the class, but like when we're in the hospital, I don't know if it was the doctor or the person administering the medication, whatever it may be, he asks me an Eagles question. And Emily was like,
rightfully so.
was like, "Do you mind?"
Yes, I'm completely
That's
on Emily's
terrible.
side.
Yeah,
here.
100%.
Ridiculous.
Um,
That guy, like, that's
Well,
got to be
we're
a
just-
violation of the doctor's code.
We're just
Like,
kind of like waiting there.
focus
right?
on your job, dude. Paulson Adebo is going to the New York Giants for 3 years, $30 million, with $20 million fully guaranteed and 12.5 this year.
I think it's got the ability to be a good signing for them. Adebo is a really competitive corner, really good ball skills. They put a lot on those corners in New Orleans in that previous scheme under Dennis Allen, a lot of man coverage, a lot of single coverage. Deonte Banks is a volatile player. I think that Adebo could go in there and be their number one corner.
Yeah, but also not a guy you're scared of.
No, but I think
yeah,
he's a good.
that's
I think he's a
good.
good player. He's a good. Yeah.
A good bet to spend your money
Yes, I think it's a good corner.
on. By the way, Jimmy G got $11 million for his 1 year.
Backup quarterback, man.
That's the thing. Like,
Yeah.
we can make fun of Kenny Pickett, but that's why he might have a trade market, because
Right.
you just talk about,
Yeah.
you do talk about the surplus value there. 1 year of a backup quarterback making less than $1 million,
Yep.
or just over. What is it? He's like making like 1.5 this year because it's a first round pick.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah, that's like an $8 million surplus probably.
The Rams want to make sure that that scout team offense is well compensated.
Yeah.
Right? Between Garoppolo and Tutu Atwell.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're because I kept reading that with the Devontae Adams deal, they want to go back to playing more 12 personnel, like and
Right.
so you guys.
Oh, that's funny.
But they just gave Tutu
Yeah,
$10 million. So we'll see.
more like 10-10.
More like 10-10. Yeah. I wasn't able I received some alerts. I was on Blue Sky, but I was listening actually on the way over here to the beginning of I started from the beginning.
Okay,
So there was like a 25-minute block that I've missed.
got it. Did you
of
get
the
to the
show.
BJ Hill conversation?
I did not get to the BJ Hill
Okay,
conversation.
we'll recap that later.
Okay.
Did you see Kinlaw? His
I
contract?
did. Adam Peters loves his former draft picks,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Somebody in the chat said Hufanga to the Broncos. I haven't seen that anywhere else.
That was being reported by somebody out in Denver as like close. but not-
Okay. I saw also Aaron Rodgers close potentially with the Steelers.
Right, that was Jerry Dulac reporting that.
Yeah.
Benjamin Albright.
Is
with
there,
Denver. Yeah.
from an Eagles perspective, who of the available quarterback options would, I mean, none of them will scare you, but would scare you the most for the Giants to add?
I mean, it's really Rodgers or Wilson, right?
I mean, I guess Darnold hasn't signed yet.
I
They
can't-
could
yeah,
get
but I-
Darnold,
yeah.
right? But, like,
Honestly, I think it's the Fran Duffy mock draft scenario. It's trading
up for Cam Ward.
for Cam Ward.
that would be the most scary thing. I
Me.
agree.
And not to say that I'll defer to Fran in terms of the Cam Ward evaluation, but I think that's the move that's like, all right, we're ready to get our franchise quarterback, right? As opposed to kind of this continued Band-Aid solution.
And honestly, I think it's very possible they do both,
Hmm.
where they sign one of these two vets and then still trade up to number one. Because I think that insulates yourself from if you are Joe Shane and Brian Dable of like, hey, we're not just throwing a Band-Aid on it. Stick with us. We've got you covered. We got the future and we got the now. Like, I think that's very possible they try and go both routes.
I just think if you trade for the number one pick, you start the number one pick, from my perspective.
Yeah.
But
I mean, it depends
it depends.
like anything, it depends who else they have. Maybe you think the guy needs to develop.
Right.
Do you think Cam Ward would be ready to start? week one?
I mean, everything I've heard, if like in terms of like off the field, like he's gonna be able to jump in and compete right away. That he's got everything that obviously like the physical tools are all there, but in terms of like coming in and just like hitting the ground running and starting, that's the question with any rookie quarterback is like, okay, are they going to be able to handle?
Really?
What do we got?
We have the big one,
Milton
Williams, according to Chris.
Oh,
To the Carolina Panthers.
Carolina.
Do we have the terms?
Good for Milt.
Okay. I also, less important, I see Dan Moore is going to the Tennessee Titans. 4 years, $82 million with 50 guaranteed for Dan Moore, who gave up the most sacks in the NFL the last year and the last 2 years combined. Good for the Titans.
Yeah, Schefter said he's finalizing the deal with the Panthers.
Milton Williams.
No numbers yet, though.
By the way, did you see, Zach, as you were scrolling Instagram, did you see where Milton Williams and Josh Sweat were this weekend? Their last weekend as teammates, as they both prepare to get the bag. Did you see where they were?
I did not. Were they at the Philly show?
No.
They? Okay. Where were they?
They were in Columbia with Matt Leo and Teron Jackson at Patrick Johnson's wedding.
That's
like
awesome.
It's like a Mad Libs.
Isn't that cool?
I respect that.
Eagles Mad Lib.
Isn't that cool? What a good group.
Wait, in Columbia, the country?
Yes, they did not get married at the university.
No, I didn't know Columbia, South Carolina.
Right.
Okay. Yeah, good for them. That's awesome. By the way, speaking of Eagles,
That's pretty cool.
I'll say this to give some color from. Well, we should talk about Milton Williams, but to give some color from the Saquon Barkley press conference, big contingent that was there, including Nick Sirianni, Jamal Singleton, Bobby King, Michael Clay, Greg Austin, the new, we're assuming, assistant offensive line coach. AJ Brown was there.
Okay.
I saw Brandon Graham outside getting, loading some stuff into his car. So, so it was a busy day there, but a big turnout from people who were in town at the press conference today.
Okay. So, Milton Williams. This was obviously expected. The money's going to be very interesting. How do you look back on Milton Williams' career, Fran?
I mean, he was look. It's colored by the fact that I was really, really excited about that acquisition for the Eagles. I was really high on Milton coming out of Louisiana Tech. I thought they got a steal in the third round. I think we'll say 9 out of 10 other realities like past that things could have gone for the Eagles. Milton Williams is re-signing here in Philadelphia on a big money deal, and he's a guy that they try and build around. But I think the fact that you added certainly a player like Jalen Carter's caliber, but then some of the other talent they've added to that room, I think it just made it more difficult. We've talked about over the last year how we were surprised that they hadn't redone Milton yet. And I think it was always kind of building to this point that he was just someone that was just likely just going to get kind of lost in the shuffle there because of the talent in that room. But this is a player that, and it's kind of been under-discussed because everyone talks about the pass rush and his ability to disrupt and, that we saw the Super Bowl and all that. He's an awesome run defender. He's a really, really violent player at the point of attack. That was when he first started cracking into the lineup. That's where he was shining, was his ability to make plays at the point of attack, hold his ground, get off blocks, find the football. We're going back to Jonathan Gannon's year in Philadelphia, his rookie year. You go back to that scheme between Sean Desai and Matt Patricia last year, and then even this year. Milton Williams can do everything. I think it's a good bet by Carolina to give him that money. Good for Milton Williams.
Evero, their defense coordinator, is a disciple of Vic Fangio, so there's not as much of a scheme projection. He joins a defensive line with Derek Brown, who they just gave major money to a year ago. So I don't want to say Derek Brown's a Jalen Carter type player, but he is one of the top defensive linemen in the league. So plays next to or plays on the same line as a player like that. This is an interesting signing. I look back at the Milton Williams period of a good draft pick.
Yep.
They extracted a lot from him. I always thought he was going to sign. I always thought he was going to sign elsewhere, for the reason that I thought, given what they were going to pay Jalen Carter, given the investments they've made, I thought it was a down year. I think in 2023, relatively speaking, across the board for the defense,
for that whole
right?
group, yep.
But really strong year this year, and he goes to a place now where I imagine he'll play a lot more than the way he played in Philly.
We should say that this is atypical for the Eagles to let a good homegrown drafted player at 26 years old along the line of scrimmage leave. we have also said, like, it is rare that the Eagles regret letting a guy go in free agency. Probably not since Jordan Hicks, and even that, it is still a linebacker. It's not a player at a position of organizational importance. So this is a bit, from a big picture standpoint, surprising. But from the situation once the season started and he wasn't re-signed, it's not surprising. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, you and I spoke about this a lot last offseason, and the sense I was getting, and I can't speak for Milton, was that he wanted this to get to free agency, right? Like, I don't know what the negotiation was before the season. I know the Eagles didn't want to do any in-season contracts this year, but even going into the season, the sense I was getting was that Milton Williams wanted to hit the open market, wanted that opportunity to kind of go somewhere else to be like the guy. Now, I don't know if he's the guy in Carolina, but maybe more of the guy than he was in Philly.
What do you guys? Let's play closest to the pin on the money, which has not come out yet on Milton Williams. What do you think?
I'm gonna say. I'm looking at other contracts real quick.
I'll jump in.
Go ahead, go for it.
I'll go 4 for $90.
I'm gonna go 4,105.
4,105. Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll split the difference. I'll go 495.
Okay. I mean, Dan Moore's getting $21 million a year.
I know.
You know?
And the Panthers had money to spend.
Yep.
Yeah.
They just signed J.C. Horn today. They gave him a major contract extension.
Huge contract.
Yes.
One good year.
He's a good corner, but he's another one who's like just struggled to stay healthy. It's just not on the field enough to that number surprised me.
And from a Panthers perspective, like, the investment in Milton Williams is interesting to me because I could be convinced on both sides.
Yeah.
On the one hand, you're not going to get a lot of guys in free agency who are this young,
Right.
And have a chance to really be ascending in their career. He's coming off the best year of his career, both in terms of, sacks and quarterback hit rate, and also, as you talked about, he's very good against the run. This could be a guy who is going to be a good investment. On the other side, man, like, do I want to pay $25 million a year to a guy who was, as has been framed, benefiting from double teams as opposed to being the one who was double teamed? Like, how much of that production was because he was playing next to Jalen Carter, who was taking so much attention from opposing defenses?
Yeah, I mean, I hear what you're saying. Every year when we do this show, I recite the Andrew Friedman line. He's the president of baseball operations of the Los Angeles Dodgers, and he says, if you think rationally about every free agent, you'll finish second in every free agent, right? For every free agent. The reality is that free agency itself, you're over. I don't want to say overpaying, but you're outbidding somebody else typically, right? Especially the first day. So you have to you're paying a premium because you're paying for a guy on the open market. But I hear what you're saying. I get the risk. I do think, though, if you have money, every team right now has money to spend. It's just a matter of how you're spending it, right? And they so for the Panthers, who have a quarterback on a rookie contract, who don't have big money tied into some of these other, they don't have big money tied into the left tackle, although Taylor Moton, their right tackle, makes good money. There's a lot of positions where other teams pay a premium where they're not paying a premium. Derek Brown, J.C. Horn are really their high-paid players, and then Taylor Moton. So, and then Robert Hunt as well.
Yeah.
But that's a team that has money to spend. There was a thought going into this, people that we respect, whether Sheil Kapadia, Greg Rosenthal, Jordan Rodriguez, are Mike Jones.
You learn.
Are pointing to Milton Williams as the top free agent.
Yeah.
So I don't know if Milton Williams is an A player, and I'm on record saying I don't like paying A money to B players. But I think if you're paying money this free agency, this is the kind of guy who you're probably paying it to. And we have to see what the structure is, of course.
Yeah.
Quickly, a couple other deals. Derek Barnett, it's always him, going back to the Texans on a one-year deal worth $5 million. And Carlton Davis, who we mentioned earlier, going to the New England Patriots. They finally found someone to take their money. 3 years, $60 million, 34.5 guaranteed.
So are you expecting Morrow to become the, I don't want to say number 2 D tackle, but to step in for Milton? Or do you think they add someone into that Milton Williams role?
I mean, the guy that I would expect would be Dre'Mont Jones if they're going to go outside. I would imagine it would be Dre'Mont. And then there's the rookie class too. That would be another one. I just wouldn't rule that out, especially with the depth of this class, especially guys that I think fit a Fangio scheme. There are a number of players that I think would fit that bill.
I mean, I have heard discussion behind the scenes of maybe they need to this forces them to give Jordan Davis more playing time, to not view Jordan Davis as an early down player. But if you're of the opinion that Jordan Davis can have an effect in the passing game, this is your chance to give him that opportunity, to make him a 50%, 55% snap player. Is that too ambitious?
No, I don't think so. I think that, I mean, that's got to be the hope, though. Bo said it earlier that if there was player, no, but it was like if there was one player that you could get their truth on from the people in the building.
Truth serum to ask the organization or Howie about one player on the team. What do you really think of this player? To me, like Jordan Davis is the most interesting answer.
That's a great one.
Here's the other question we asked before you joined, Zach. If you were the Eagles, I guess.
Yeah.
If you could say that next year Jordan Davis is going to improve in one of these two things, he's either going to become playable on third down, like he can be on the field on third down as a pass rusher, or would you rather he gets even better as a run defender and become a truly dominant run stuffer on first and second down?
The first one. Have more of an effect in the passing. I would take what he is as a run stuffer now and add the pass rush repertoire, then increase the run stuffing 15, 20%.
I think we both went the other way.
We both went the other way, but I don't think there's a wrong answer there.
No.
But that's, yeah.
But what I would do, and I'm sorry I didn't get to this point when I was in the car where you're having the conversation about the fifth-year option, I would try to extend him. I don't know if I would pay him what the fifth-year option guarantees, but I would say, we like you. We'll give you money up front now for the next 3 years. But it's kind of a way to hedge your bet. It's something that teams do sometimes to these guys who they like, but they're not ready to pay the fifth-year option to.
I think that's to me, that's the most likely outcome, in my opinion.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think it's interesting. How's everybody feeling about saying goodbye to Milton Williams? I mean, is it possible that for all the good he did in his first 4 years and, getting the big play in the Super Bowl, looking like one of the best players on the field, getting that dunk, he's still going to be most remembered for the Tom Donahoe situation on draft night?
Among I don't want to say the sickos, but among the people who are really online, yeah, probably so. But I think Milton Williams is probably remembered. Look, I think Derek Burgess is the best comp here for Eagles fans.
It's a long time ago.
Yeah.
But I'm saying, Derek Burgess was a third-round pick who was the last probably really good player at a premium position who the Eagles let leave. And he went on to have a solid career with the Raiders. But that's probably the best comp for the Milton Williams period.
And for you, Milton Williams going to the Panthers makes sense because it's a chance for him to go play next to the only defensive tackle in the league better than Jalen Carter.
Well, he does get to play with a really good defensive lineman in Derek Brown. Yeah. So I would imagine that if
we got to do that as a three-handed draft this year.
Yeah, it's true.
The league-wide draft, one player from every team.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I hope we can do that. I don't know. I'm kind of trying to figure out what our shows are going to be this summer with, Bo's going to be with a newborn. So I heard that part of the show, right? So we might have to kind of phone you in maybe to kind of give your picks.
I mean, I think you could save that one. I'm not going to be gone all summer.
Okay. I'm just trying to be respectful of that.
We could fit a couple mailbags in.
Yeah. Mailbag month on PHLY.
Hey, it would get numbers. Our mailbag show did great numbers. I just want to say that. We don't need to relitigate it.
Yeah, let us know what you think in the chat about Milton Williams leaving. You think there's a chance they bring back Sweat? Any chance?
I mean, I would never say never, but I think Sweat's going to get paid, and I think the Eagles were prepared to move on from Sweat. But if we were talking about someone like Khalil Mack, for instance, or Azeez Ojulari, two players that I think would make sense, that would have made sense for the Eagles in Mack's case and still make sense. You might say, is Sweat and is Sweat a better outcome there? I don't know the answer there. Ojulari is certainly younger. Khalil Mack certainly more distinguished. He's obviously not on the board anymore. Yep. But is sometimes keeping your own guy better than going out and bringing someone else in?
We're over an hour in. Biggest winner so far free agency?
Blue Sky?
Got to be Blue Sky, right?
I would agree with that. I would agree with that.
Mm.
Here you go. From Ian Rappaport on Blue Sky. Evan Ingram, formerly of the Jaguars, is visiting the Broncos. So doing a free agent. Oh, did we already get to that?
No.
I think
Okay.
that was from earlier today. but
Gotcha. Yeah, I don't have the chronological here.
Well, go to the chronological.
I'm sorry.
Didn't we have this conversation on Twitter? You were doing
I'm
the
not
Discovery
on
Trail?
Blue Sky that
You're
often.
a reporter.
Okay,
Like,
yeah.
you gotta.
I'm sorry. Sorry, I'm trying to do a show
Okay.
here.
That would have pretty big draft
I'm looking at my
implications.
spreadsheet. Yeah.
If Ingram goes,
Yeah, because a lot of people
Oh,
are
interesting.
giving tight end to the Denver Broncos,
Okay.
but I think he would be
Maybe
the
trying to
perfect
draft the
encapsulation of the Joker that Sean Payton
Mm.
consistently says that he wants in that offense.
all right, let's run through the super chats.
Yes.
Dan Baxter, just giving us the money. We appreciate that, Dirty Dan. Claude Debussy says, climbing up on BJ Hill, I can see the city lights. I appreciate that. AL Sailor says, how likely that Dallas gets traded? Apologies if you already discussed. And if he is, what about Juwan Johnson? Zach, what is the latest on Dallas Goedert as you understand it?
Yeah, I think you guys were explaining it well earlier, which is Dallas Goedert would want a new contract, I would imagine. That's certainly the sense I get. I think Dallas Goedert, it's known around the league, is very much available. This isn't a media fabrication. Dallas Goedert's very much available. I don't think that the price for Dallas Goedert, by the way, would just be a draft pick this year. I think the Eagles, similar to Hassan Reddick, would be willing to kind of think down the line if it gets them a better comp. If it gets them better comp there, I think Dallas Goedert will probably. I think Dallas Goedert's side will see what the money is elsewhere because to kind of set the state. It's similar to Hassan Reddick, similar to Josh Sweat, similar to Darius Slay a few years ago. Which, and when I say Reddick and Sweat, I mean last year, where they want to get more money, right? He wants term on his deal. I would imagine he's 30. He has better chance of getting a multi-year deal this offseason than next offseason. We see teams have money. We see this is not a robust tight end market. So that's kind of the impetus for this. From the Eagles' perspective, if you're not prepared to have if you're not prepared to give them a multi-year deal, you need some type of resolution here. I understand that the cap hit is burdensome, and it is especially burdensome. I do know one thing that the team thinks about is that, all right, if you take it on the chin now, it clears your books for the following season. So let's say the Eagles are already looking ahead to the 2026 offseason. They say this is either a more robust free agent market or they'll have more flexibility, more roster flexibility, more cap flexibility. If Goddard's on this team this year and he leaves next season, they're going to take a cap hit then, right? Or they're going to take there's going to be dead cap money then. If you let him go now, there's obviously more dead cap money and it eats into your cap space, but then that clears the books for the following year. So it's similar to the Carson Wentz conversation from a few years ago in that the Eagles looked at it like, yeah, this is a big cap hit, but you no longer have that obligation. So Dallas Goedert has void years on his deal. Whenever Dallas Goedert leaves, there would be a cap hit the Eagles would absorb. So it's a matter of absorbing it now or absorbing it in the future. But I think that if Dallas Goedert can't get more money elsewhere, it wouldn't. I don't want to say it wouldn't surprise me. I think a resolution, and I wrote about this today on allphly.com, would be similar to the Josh Sweat situation last year, is to rework a 1-year deal with guaranteed money. Brings down his guarantee. Brings him down. It's essentially a pay cut, but he gets that guaranteed money, and he hits the market next year. But I think that only occurs if Goedert doesn't feel he can get more money elsewhere.
I'm glad you mentioned that you can read that on allphly.com because we have a good deal going on right now as part of free agency frenzy, limited time introductory offer, $36 for the whole year. Usually it's $80. I mean, not only are you getting Zach's thoughts on free agency and all the coverage about what the Eagles are going to do, you get Fran's entire draft guide, which is, way more than the price of just the full year. Unbelievable. His insights and notes on almost every single player in the draft by the time we get
crazy.
there.
Yeah.
You've also got the coverage of the Flyers and the Sixers. Fantastic stuff. Good time to become a diehard. As Idiot Sandwich says, it's not a good deal. It's an amazing deal. Fantastic.
Our friend Zach Rosenblatt up in New York said, I've heard that there's increasing optimism that the Jets will land Justin Fields. Still work to be done. Always a shot at a surprise team swooping in or Pittsburgh changing course.
I mean, down bad to be.
Limited supply,
really
man.
Hope I can get Justin Fields.
Limited supply.
It looks like Twitter is back also.
Oh, wow.
For now. It's been back like 3 other times today.
Okay.
Like,
Well, I'm just telling the audience. That's all.
Well, they don't need to go on Twitter. They have us.
That is true. They do have us.
Also, so far, no. It's interesting that we don't have reported numbers on Milton Williams.
I know.
All it is over $20 million a year, which is what we expected. But how much over? DJ, a.k.a. Mr. Sandman, says Vic Fangio expects production from his players. He doesn't care that Jordan Davis was a first-round pick. Jordan Davis needs to improve his endurance. I don't think that's unreasonable. That was a big talking point in the offseason. Obviously,
Yes.
Jalen Carter delivered on that front, played a ton of snaps. I don't know if Jordan Davis's endurance was what was holding him back, as opposed to just what he was bringing to the table on third down. But I think you're also right that Vic Fangio is not the one anchored to his draft status.
That is true.
That's what he can help with. And then Arthur Bo Wulf Smith says, need an offseason Barbie watch along for the sickos. Zach, would you be willing to do that?
A Barbie watch along.
Yeah.
If it's good for our numbers, then sure.
Not a baby.
I think you brought up a really good point that's worthwhile talking about today, where you said you used the term anchoring or anchor to Jordan Davis. And I think this is relevant for this conversation. Howie Roseman has been outspoken, certainly last year, but especially this year, about the need to turn over to younger players. Okay? Everyone here on this roster is a Howie Roseman draft pick. So at these positions where guys are leaving, let's say cornerback with Keely Ringo.
Okay.
Let's say edge rusher with J.Alex Hunt. Let's say at right guard with Tyler Steen. Defensive tackle with Moro Ojima. All these players, Howie Roseman is invested in their success. And I don't think it's to say that Howie Roseman has a blind spot to them, but I do think that part of the shift in what the Eagles have done here in recent years, and I've spoken, this isn't a secret, this is something that I've spoken to Howie about, is this the Eagles are playing less in the middle class than they ever have. That they have more expensive players than they ever have. A disproportionate amount of like top of the league paid players than ever before. And so the other side of that is you're really relying on players on their rookie deals. And there are certain spots where Howie would rather see a young guy get the opportunity than a $6 million free agent. Now, that's not to say I think he's okay with the $1.5 million guy, the $3 million guy, right, as almost insurance. But I think he's less interested in signing that $8 to $10 million player to start over Keely Ringo, to start over Tyler Steen, to start over Moro Ojima. Am I wrong?
No, and I think that you're finding it's not even just the rookie contracts. Look, you're not going to find a player off the scrap heap to be the defensive player of the year like you did last year. It's very unlikely that you find this year's Zack Baun, but trying to find players on the margins that you can get surplus value out of from a contract standpoint. I remember there was a conversation I had with Tony Dungy. This was years ago about when he first got to Indianapolis and working with Bill Polian. And they said, look, we already have the offense set. You had Peyton Manning, you had Marvin Harrison, Reggie Wayne, Dallas Clark. I think at that point it was Edgerrin James. Then they said, okay, what can we do defensively? We have so much money allocated to the offense. Where can we win on the edges defensively? And he said, all right, well, in my Tampa 2 scheme, we don't need to spend big money at corner. We can get these smaller, slower corners that nobody else is targeting. We can get undersized linebackers that no one else is targeting. So it's about working with Vic Fangio and with everyone on the staff, not just the defensive coordinator, but everyone on staff to say, where can we win on the margins and find somebody under the radar to give us that surplus value? And that's what they're going to need to do as they're giving out these big contracts elsewhere.
Good point.
It's also like if you think about it from that standpoint in terms of how they're spending money on defense, the next 2 years you're paying Zack Baun for sure at the top of the linebacker market. But then right when that is no longer guaranteed is when you're going to probably extend Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. And so you're probably going to flip it then, right? Yep. So you're going to have to go back to being cheap at linebacker so that you can afford to pay the guys on the outside. Presumably, we'll see how Zack Baun ages. But yeah, I mean, those questions about thinking on multiple timelines at the same time, like that's Howie Roseman's job, and that's how he has to be thinking.
Yeah, and I do think this could be wrong, or this might not be a good way of thinking. But when Chip Kelly was here, and this was a mistake by Chip, he thought his competitive advantage was the scheme, right? And they certainly operated that way. I think that the Eagles, the way they view it now, and I think the rest of the league kind of thinks the Eagles operate this way, or a lot of teams do, is that the Eagles' competitive advantage is their player acquisition, right? Not to say that Howie's the star the same way like Chip was the star, but that where they are going to beat you is not necessarily with the scheme, but it's with the player acquisition. They are going to be able to acquire more talent and keep more talent and procure more talent based on the way that their front office is situated. And so with some of these draft picks here, I think Howie's going to want to see these guys on the field playing to kind of bear this philosophy. And Bo's point about the multiple time lines is 100% correct, because Howie is looking at 2026, he's looking at 2027, and that's not just with planning for it, but it's also with getting guys meaningful snaps now if they're going to be a part of the roster in 2026 and 2027.
This is interesting. The Milton Williams thing is yes, this is close. This is not done. So there's maybe not all the way done.
Why the numbers aren't out yet?
The little Frank Gore situation here, right?
The numbers are not out there yet. So
who's the mystery team? Arizona?
Arizona. Well, look, I'll say this about Arizona.
You close the laptop often, I find, on the show. Why?
Because I'd like to look at someone in the eyes when I speak to them. And I feel like if my laptop's here, it's distracting me.
Your battery runs out all the time. I feel like it's because it's constantly booting up and booting down.
Oh, is that a thing?
Oh, yeah. That affects your battery.
Yeah. My battery runs. I work in coffee shops a lot for writing. And so I'm not charging in coffee shops.
You don't search out the spot where you can get a plug?
No, the coffee shop where I do most of my writing doesn't have
plugs. No plugs?
Oh, man.
Yeah, it doesn't have plugs.
Interesting.
Yeah. It actually doesn't even have in-house Wi-Fi. It has the Xfinity Wi-Fi. Right? Because it's actually a coffee shop that doesn't want you to be on your computer for like hours on end.
And of all the coffee shops near where you live, this is the place you choose to go?
Yeah, for some reason. Honestly, Emily jokes about this. I've tried other coffee shops to work at. For some reason, I am like hyper productive at this one coffee shop. I don't know if it's the ambiance.
What do you think it is? Yeah.
I don't know if it's the lights. I don't know what it is, but for some reason, I leave that coffee shop 2,000 words, 2,500 words, where some other coffee shops, I'm just not as productive.
I wonder why that is.
I don't know. I'm trying to figure that out as well.
Diana responded to the tweet. Other teams around the league are showing strong interest in landing Williams right now.
Wow,
so somebody else making a strong play.
So that agent's doing his job, right? Or her job, but in his case, his job. So I was obviously bullish on Baron Browning.
Yep.
I would tell Jonathan Gannon if he asked me that if Baron Browning's your answer at edge rusher, you need a better answer. Because Baron Browning's more of the situational edge rusher. So whatever Arizona, I don't know if Arizona's done anything yet, but they need to improve that pass rush. They need to improve that defensive front. I did not like their strategy last year at all. They were actually going for these like mid-level free agents. I didn't think they were operating that correctly. I think this is the year for them to make a splash.
Some whispers that the Patriots might be involved in the Milton Williams case still. Tom Pelissero says the Texans are signing Tremon Smith to a 2-year deal worth up to $7.5 million. I don't think we're going to stop the show on that front necessarily.
No.
You like a Tremon Smith?
Do I like a Tremon Smith? I mean, I don't have a strong opinion. Let me look at my spreadsheet here.
We have one more look at the potential targets for the Eagles in free agency to check out. That's the guys on offense. And so I don't think we expect a ton of movement on offense for the Eagles in free agency, but there are some potential patchworks for them to fill, most notably on the offensive line. And we haven't really dug into the Mekhi Becton situation just yet, as it is reported that the Patriots are signing Morgan Moses to a 3-year, $24 million deal. So the list of the potential Eagles targets on offense includes Jedrick Wills, who would be sort of the plug-and-play Mekhi Becton type, guy who played tackle, then could maybe move to guard. You've got Brandon Scherf at 33 years old, who would be a much different style acquisition, could come in and just take that position for a year.
He was released, right? Sure.
He was not released.
not,
I don't believe.
okay.
Yeah, so he would qualify.
Got it.
As would Patrick McCarry, who plays all 5 positions for the Ravens. James Daniels is an interesting one.
Yep.
Yeah.
Coming off an Achilles, so probably won't be ready for week 1, but could be kind of like a nice Band-Aid just in case between Tyler Steen and Darren Kennard and Trevor Keegan, you don't get somebody who is living up to it at right guard. You got Larry Borum as a potential swing tackle option. Will Hernandez, big guard. I like it. Yeah. Jawan Johnson, a potential backfill for Dallas Goedert at tight end. Hunter Long is a pure blocking tight end. Elijah Moore, the wide receiver, you have as the A.J. Brown
I like that
connection as a potential addition. And then if you're trying to check out the scrap heap at running back, you've got Javonte Williams coming off his rookie contract. Even Raheem Mostert could be thrown in there. To me, I think all of these things are things that probably wouldn't happen until the proverbial second wave of free agency.
Yeah, 4 of those players I identified today as like my favorite free agents outside of the top guys.
Oh, okay.
So the players I had were Justin Fields at quarterback, Javonte Williams at running back, Elijah Moore at wide receiver, Harrison Bryant at tight end, Jedrick Wills at offensive tackle, James Daniels at interior offensive line, Dre'Mont Jones at defensive line, Azeez Ojulari at edge, Divine Diablo at linebacker, Paulson Adebo at corner, and Andre Sisco at safety. So those were kind of my guys, if you will, in the free.
What does Andre Sisco make you think of?
Syracuse University. Yes. But yeah, that's a good list there. Javonte Williams is the name there that I think makes a lot of sense for the Eagles, as he wouldn't be a starter here. We just spoke to Saquon Barkley. Saquon Barkley's coming off nearly a 500 touch season, if you include the postseason. Javonte, someone who I imagine you like quite a bit coming out of UNC.
I did. I will say really quickly, I've never found you less believable than when you said you did not know the name of the thong song.
No, I gotta say, I
totally agree.
No,
I take it back. Same show. No, the American Pie that you follow, that you like for the character development, and then you went on to name every single character in the entire series of movies.
Yeah.
No, I mean a real blow to your journalistic integrity. How can people believe that you're telling the truth?
Well, no, that's look. I admit that I'm trying to incorporate different strategies recommended to me in terms of working with Bo. So I am. I mean, there's a cottage industry of people sending me suggestions, and that was one of the suggestions was just if he's trying to set you up to embarrass you. No, if he's trying to set you up to embarrass you, just plead ignorant. Just make him say the thing that will be a drop for you, right? So if the whole purpose of
the thing that will be a drop, we don't have drops. Nothing has become a drop.
If the whole purpose of it is to get me to name the song, then what I need to do is just plead ignorance, so then you name the song.
But that's not the whole purpose of it. I'm just trying to have the conversation.
No,
I think you're too defensive, as if I'm out to get you, and I'm just trying to have a conversation.
I'm just saying what the audience is telling me. Morgan Moses, I have an interesting Morgan Moses story.
Okay.
Hindsight here.
Virginia related?
Well, relative, yeah. So actually,
it's actually Moses Morgan, I believe.
It is not, but he is from the same hometown though as Mekhi Becton to make the Eagles connection. So a few years ago,
I was water there, making some big boys.
I was speaking to someone inside the Eagles building, and this was back when I don't want to say I had a better relationship with them, but like it was more give and take, right? And the person asked me, "So who do you like in this draft?" Right? And I thought I had to make a bold claim, right? And so I said, Morgan Moses is going to have a better NFL career than Eugene Monroe, all right? And at the time, Eugene Monroe was like a really productive player. And the person was like, a better NFL career than Eugene Monroe and Morgan Moses. I don't think he was known to be talented coming out, but I think there were like a lot of different opinions. He didn't have the same college career at Virginia, but I covered his recruitment at Virginia, and he was just like otherworldly. And so I thought this would be a bold claim. And then when he was in Washington, he was like inconsistent, and I'm like, oh God, what did I do? And I was thinking about that, and now here I am, all these years
twice
later.
as long.
Yeah, Morgan Moses. So he's giving me the last laugh. Yeah, so thank you, Morgan.
I hope that's how he begins his press conference with the Patriots. Thank you, Zach.
You're welcome, man.
Because your belief in me.
Yeah. Good for you. That was a good call.
Yeah.
Some super chats. Stonks Zach Berman says 1 hour till 2:23. BJ Hill re-signed. Zach, are you a BJ guy?
I think BJ Hill is a good football player.
Idiot Sandwich. I'm going to save you. I'm not out to get you, Zach. Idiot Sandwich says, ZB, what non-sports beat would you take at a paper?
Oh, good question, Idiot Sandwich. So non-sports beat. I mean, I just have to say the White House because it would be. It's the biggest beat, right?
Right.
You want to be where the attention.
There's no
is.
way you expected him to answer any way other than that.
I know.
This is.
But it's not even just politics, just the White House beat, which is just
What?
asking questions at a press conference, like to be seen. It's
That's not what it is. That's covering. It's covering the president of the United States. It's flying Air Force One. It's
well. The good news is you couldn't do any worse than anybody else who's doing it right now.
I mean, I think that I want to be where the eyeballs are. I want to cover the biggest show. I want to cover the attention.
Be where the eyeballs
So,
are.
so to me, Matt C says ZB.
I mean,
is
that
just,
was great. It was like,
ZB is just a clown. Matt, I don't
he's
know.
not a clown.
Honestly, I don't think that's
I take offense to that. If anyone is a clown here, it's me.
I think covering the White House correspondent, or I'm sorry, being the White House correspondent is like that's a pretty big deal in journalism.
Yeah, I'd agree.
Yeah.
DJ Reed to the
Ooh.
Detroit Lions,
Replacing
Interesting.
Carlton Davis.
Backfilling Carlton Davis. Who was it? You said Adebo you thought was going to get the biggest contract for a corner? Wasn't that our
DJ
discussion?
Hill. DJ Hill was going to make the
DJ Reed.
I'm sorry,
DJ Reed was going to get. I
Yes.
thought you said Adebo what you thought was going to get the
No, I
highest
said
paid.
DJ Reed is going to get the biggest deal as a corner.
Interesting.
I said that Paulson Adebo was going to get a big deal.
Okay, I thought
But
our disagreement was about.
No,
I thought you were saying Adebo was going to get.
no, I think DJ Reed's going to.
Okay, well, we will see. Yes, Lions making a change out. Arthur Bo Wulf Smith, another super chat says, Fran, do you prefer a BJ Hill or an RJ Harvey?
RJ Harvey being the running back from UCF this year in the draft, just for clarity's sake. BJ Hill. Yeah, RJ Harvey, I think, profiles as like a nice backup running back, rotational piece. He's got some explosive traits, but I think BJ Hill probably better player overall at their peaks.
Who's your Can you think of a former Eagle BJ?
I'm trying to think here.
I can think of one.
Who is it?
BJ Cunningham.
Oh, yes, the wide
receiver.
receiver from Michigan State.
Yeah.
That's right.
Not as evocative as BJ Hill. It's much more specific. All right, we're already at least past halfway of our promised time. But listen, if there's news, we're going to keep going beyond 3 o'clock. So stay settled in. Let's take a quick break for another ad read. Maybe somebody could get Julia and Chris their food from outside if they want. And we'll take care of our sponsors here.
Should I read?
Ooh, I'm actually going to stop this. We're cutting out of the ad break. We're going to come right back to the ad break because we have Eagles news.
Oh.
Isaiah Rodgers is leaving the Eagles.
Wow.
Has an agreement on a 2-year, $15 million deal with the Minnesota Vikings, including $8 million fully guaranteed. That's going to be enough to qualify for the comp pick formula.
Yep.
Yeah.
And the Eagles are losing Isaiah Rodgers, their top option to compete with Keely Ringo on the outside. Are you surprised?
Am I surprised? I did hear there was going to be a market for Isaiah Rodgers, and I think this is a really healthy deal. I don't think the Eagles were going up to this number. This is more than I expected Isaiah Rodgers to make. Good for Isaiah Rodgers. I would say good for Isaiah Rodgers. I'm not surprised that he's leaving at this number. I thought if Isaiah Rodgers was back, it was going to be at like 1 year, $5 million or something of that nature.
So it was 7.5 a year, you said?
Well, yeah,
Two for
215 with
15.
Eight guaranteed.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that's starting money. That's enough to be their second or third corner. Minnesota, a team that plays they kind of go back and forth between playing a lot of man, a lot of zone, depending on the year with Brian Flores. I know that they want to get to a place where they're playing more man coverage on a consistent basis, and I think that Rodgers gives them that ability. So that's a nice signing by them.
Listen, Isaiah Rodgers, this year, whenever he was called upon,
answer the bell.
Absolutely answered the bell.
No doubt.
And if he hadn't hurt that hand at the end of training camp, like we might not have seen Quinyon Mitchell as early as we did. I think we probably would have seen him in a different capacity, but he wouldn't have been starting from the outside on day one. So an interesting, certainly, if you think about this from the Eagles' investment standpoint, when they sign Isaiah Rodgers when he is suspended for the year, they get 1 year of very good backup play, and they're probably going to get a comp pick for him. It's an interesting return.
So let me ask you this, because you can have a maximum of 4 comp picks, right? Now, he could now fill the void of like Zack Baun if we in terms of the big 4, so to speak. But let's say the Eagles in their own internal projections were projecting for 3 comp picks, including Mekhi Becton leaving. Would you then say, all right, now we can be more aggressive for a player who would qualify against the comp pick formula here because we're still get 3, knowing that that player could cancel out with Isaiah Rodgers?
Yes, but it's also the level. So it's not just the inlet. It's not just the pure numbers. It's like if they sign a guy like Azeez Ojulari or whatever, he's going to cancel out Josh Sweat or Milton Williams, and so you're talking about 3rd or 4th, and then maybe like 2 6ths or something like that from Mekhi Becton and Isaiah Rodgers. But I think these 4 should give you the flexibility to sign at least one guy who's gonna cancel something out.
Right. Yeah, I think back. What was the scenario?
You shouldn't plan your entire offseason around like
a 4th round,
one extra 6th round pick.
Yes, exactly.
Because didn't like Drew Lock negate somebody big for?
I think Saquon maybe.
Yeah, it was either Saquon or the safety they lost to Green Bay.
Xavier McKinney.
Yeah, right. Negated one of those picks because they signed a $5 million back.
Right. How it works is it is the number.
Right.
And then once you are in the positive on the number, then it goes to comparing the 2 different salaries.
The last 10 minutes also, in my opinion, have increased the probability that Darius Slay is back too, because not only Rodgers leaving, but DJ Reed going to Detroit. That was the other potential landing spot. If DJ Reed's going there, less likely that they would spend money on Darius Slay.
Do you think that's the kind of one where the Eagles would probably be willing to wait around until Thursday,
right,
and let the market come to them, and maybe Slay comes back.
Yep.
If you bring Slay back, though, he's starting for you. So do you think there's a part of Howie that's like, I don't want to block Keely Ringo?
It's a fair question.
Because a mid-level free agent is someone who is competing with Keely.
Right.
Darius Slay's not. If you bring Slay back, Slay's starting, I imagine.
Yeah. And he's going to be 34.
Yeah.
Right. So you're not counting on him to play every game. So that's like you're having Keely Ringo be the guy who's ready to go. But I'm sure that is part of the calculation. That's a good point.
I wonder, because the other place that I would think of for him would be Tennessee, and they're reuniting with Denard Wilson. Tennessee just gave out money to a corner too, didn't they? Today? Or no, am I thinking of a different position?
Today? No, they got tackle.
Yeah.
They traded for what's his name last year.
How about Pittsburgh? Right, Pittsburgh's a team I heard as well for Slay, and I heard the Terrell Austin connection.
Yep.
That's a good one.
That's a good one. Yeah.
And they've been looking for a veteran corner. I mean, they have young guys there. They're looking for a veteran.
Yep.
All right, let's think that over, and now let's hear from our sponsors. We have a new sponsor to tell you about. It's called Green Chef. Green Chef is the #1 meal kit for clean eating, delivering pre-portioned and prepped quality whole foods with limited processed ingredients. Green Chef sends organic, fresh produce, responsibly sourced proteins, and chef-designed recipes in every box for satisfying, nourishing, and convenient meals that make it easy to stick to a clean eating routine. If you want to create better eating habits that last, Green Chef makes it easy with dietitian-developed recipe options featuring fresh, organic produce and quality whole foods delivered to your door each week. Stay on track, even on your busiest days, with salads ready in 5 minutes or less. Ready to blend smoothies and grab-and-go protein-packed breakfasts. Green Chef can even help keep you feeling energized and curb cravings through dry January or dry February, dry March, dry 2025 with a specially curated hydration bundle. Thrive all year with clean, easy meals from Green Chef. Go to greenchef.com/EaglesFree and use code EaglesFree to get started with free salads for 2 months plus 50% off your first box. That's greenchef.com/EaglesFree and use code EaglesFree.
It is almost spring, and that means it's time to spring into savings. If you have financial goals, whether it's buying a house or taking the dream vacation or building your emergency fund, TrueMark Financial Credit Union has the perfect savings account for you. TrueMark Financial offers high-rate certificates and money market accounts to help your money grow faster and work harder for you. Visit TrueMark.com for rates to learn more. It's federally insured by the NCUA. Rates are subject to change. And I just want to say I always enjoy seeing TrueMark Financial Credit Union when I'm driving around the area. I know it's a Philly spot, and you know you're getting a quality financial credit union with TrueMark. So visit TrueMark.com for rates to learn more. Federally insured by the NCUA. Rates are subject to change.
And just a reminder, now is a good time to become a diehard. Check out allphly.com. Limited time introductory offer, $36 for the year. You get full coverage of the Eagles, Flyers, Sixers, and most importantly, the draft. Fran Duffy's diehard draft guide, plus mock drafts, big boards coming, all that good stuff. You're deep in the heart of it.
Yeah, we're very much into the thick of things now. But it's funny though, because I spent all this time on the 3-round mock draft last week, and it's like all these things over the last 48 hours just rip all of it apart. So, but that's the fun part of the exercise.
Should that be the conceit of our draft show tomorrow? Is how the first 36 hours of free agency changes team stuff you feel about in the draft?
Yeah, I was going to talk to you about it after the show.
Yeah.
If it was that, if it was because I got the board coming out this week. Do we
maybe we
something
tease
off
that? Yeah, a little bit of both.
Yeah, a little bit of everything.
I've been going through the outliers, at the positions, but I'm not all the way through it yet. So maybe we'll save that for next week. You can tell me if you're worried about these things or not.
Yes, those it's to me that's because we have 6 shows until draft. I feel like instead of doing position previews, I feel like doing shows like that where it's all right, overrated, underrated, and the outliers in the draft and things like that, I think are a little more valuable.
Okay.
I would argue that there should only be maybe 5 or 6 free agents a year who really affect the draft, from my perspective.
In totality, across the entire league.
Yes.
Got it.
And I understand, I think you're 100% right because it does affect the draft.
Yeah.
But I think unless you're signing a cornerstone player, or you're a team that's clearly that has a hole that you're waiting to fill in the draft, you should take the best prospect that kind of fits within the framework of your team, as opposed to trying to because that's not a 12-month decision, and typically free agent signings are a 12 to 24-month decision. It's very seldom a 3 to 5 year decision.
Well,
go ahead.
Well, I was gonna say if the Broncos gave Evan Ingram 3 years, $50 million, that probably takes them out of tight end, right?
But I'm saying, but the Broncos shouldn't draft Tyler Warren because they need a tight end right now. They should draft Tyler Warren because
and then
he's a really good player. Exactly.
I totally agree with you. I think the entire purpose of free agency is to draft-proof your roster.
Exactly.
Is to make sure that you don't have to force a position anywhere, but you also are free to take whatever the best fit is, no matter the position.
Now, the irony to that is one of the signings last year that I would have said should affect the way you draft is Kirk Cousins. Right. And so
that's true.
So that's one where I would say take your highest rated guy, unless you just guaranteed a quarterback $120 million or whatever it is, because that just is pissing money down the drain.
Yeah, that's funny. No, I totally agree with you. Generally speaking, and you also think back to some Eagles draft mistakes. Have often been because of that, because they felt like they had to find a specific type. I mean, Jalen Reagor is the most obvious example of that.
Danny Watkins.
We sort of argued heading in. Now, Watkins was a little different only because they didn't have free agency first that year, remember?
That's a valid point.
And I think that was a mistake that they made. But, they were very cap-strung in that 2020 draft with Jalen Reagor. We sort of argued at the time, why not just sign I forget who the type of player we were talking about. It was like Rashad Perryman, like just sign a guy so that you don't have to force that pick. But instead, they went in knowing they were going to take a receiver there and probably overthought the fit schematically instead of just taking Justin Jefferson. And I think there are times like that where you do get in trouble. And Howie Roseman said it a month ago that if you leave the draft having filled all your needs, you probably had a bad draft. And I like that framing.
You're right. And Dallas Goedert turned into a really good pick for the Eagles, and it was a pick that at the time didn't necessarily, there wasn't a clear need. And I do know that the Eagles actually went into the first round that year. They were drafting 32, so it's comparable to this year. And they said they wanted an offensive weapon for Carson Wentz. Now, it didn't matter if that weapon played tight end or wide receiver or obviously running back, but that was kind of their thinking at the time. And I don't think the teams do this, but unless you're signing your franchise left tackle in free agency, I think that or you're drafting in the top 5, and you should just take the best player there is.
Reports circulating that it is Carolina, Arizona, Minnesota fighting for Milton Williams.
Interesting. Super chat from Rel Got Snacks says, if Shador falls, would you take him at 32? Hashtag QB Factory.
No, I don't think so.
I don't know. 32? I mean, probably not, but I'd be curious.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think so. I think I'd pass.
Okay.
Somebody else wants to trade up for him.
Sure.
Okay.
It's great. It's a great situation.
What do you think, Zach?
Yeah, I'll defer to Fran. I think that Lamar Jackson was an example of a player who fell to 32 because the league was just stupid, from my perspective. Shador Sanders, I think if Shador Sanders falls to 32, it's probably that the media has overevaluated him, like relative to teams, right? I think that he's such a, not to say he's not a good player, but he's so famous. It's probably similar to Manziel in the sense of I don't mean to use that like Johnny Manziel was so famous and was viewed as potential number 1 pick, but I don't think internally the league didn't necessarily view it that way. And what I mean is that if Shador Sanders is available at 32, it's probably because the media hype for him is greater than the way teams are evaluating him. Is my guess.
I don't think I agree with that.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, you're free to disagree.
I'm not saying he's Lamar Jackson or anything obviously they're completely different styles of players.
But I was using Lamar Jackson because he was available at 32. Yeah.
No, I understand. Yeah. I think Lamar Jackson fell to 32 for similar concerns, not similar concerns because they're totally different players, but they didn't think that he was as good of a prospect to counterbalance what they thought of him as a person. And now it was different. It was completely different with Lamar, where it was we don't think this guy is has enough personality. We think he's kind of a bump on the log. Whereas it's the opposite with Shador Sanders. I'm not saying I think he's a top 10 caliber prospect, but the conversation leaving the draft is a little bit problematic to me. And I don't really it's not like the media was pushing him up into a top 10 pick. He was a lot of those conversations are based off things talking with teams.
Yeah, I'll defer to Fran there, but I'll use this example. There was a point where Matt Barkley was projected to be a first-round pick, and then
but it wasn't that.
But then as the draft process went on, as it turned out, the media evaluation of Matt Barkley was different than the league evaluation of Matt Barkley. So it might very well be. I think if Shador Sanders is available at 32, my guess is because the league isn't evaluating him as a clear first-round pick. I could be wrong there. Yeah, but I actually think Lamar Jackson, the league, from my understanding, teams had first-round grades on Lamar Jackson. It was just there was a thought, and this was foolish of teams, but there was a thought that you would have to recreate your entire offense for Lamar Jackson. That he wasn't, you have to commit to a certain way of playing, and they were just missing the fact that Lamar Jackson was absolutely awesome at Louisville.
I mean, to be fair, the Ravens did. The Ravens did
Yeah,
have to
sure.
completely remake their offense for the first couple of years, then get them kind of brought into the league in that way. So, I think there's something to that. But yeah, and clearly as very much outperformed that slot, especially considering the other guys that went ahead of him.
All right, waiting on news.
Yeah, I'm waiting on
waiting
some
on
of the big
Milton.
stuff here.
No word on Josh Sweat yet.
No
word on,
no like reports on
yeah,
Sweat.
nothing on Mekhi Becton either.
Yeah.
Do you think the more Becton lingers, the greater chance there is of him returning?
I suppose.
I think that since we did our exercise of World Order, I feel less confident in Becton coming back than I did then. Like as time has gone on, I'm like, I don't know if that contract would make sense.
Right. Let's take a look actually at the list of Eagles free agents, because tell me who else you think here, could command attention in the first, call it 48 hours of free agency. In addition to the big ones, you've also got the likes of Fred Johnson. Like, is Fred Johnson going to get a deal somewhere? Interesting. I mean, Dan Moore's getting $21 million a year. Like, how much worse is Fred Johnson?
A couple tiers below that would be my estimation.
Yeah, typically the way this works is there's not a lot of late money. There's a lot of early money, but the contracts on day 3 and beyond typically favor the team. Contracts on day 1 favor the player.
I believe Twitter is down again.
Apparently, its fearless leader has said that they are under cyber attack from a coordinated group.
Oh, shit.
A country may be interesting.
Oh, interesting. You think it's the NBA?
That is funny. Baseball. It's Major League Baseball saying our free agency goes on for 2 months. Right? Yeah, that's funny.
Do we have the list of Eagles free agents, Julia? That's okay. All good.
Yeah, Twitter is down again.
Great. Let's see.
Blue Sky is up though.
Good.
Thriving.
Did you send that, Zach, to
in the Eagles beat?
It's in the Eagles beat. Okay. Let's take a look at who else is a free agent here for the Eagles. You've got. Do we have it in Eagles beat? Oh, here we go. Okay. Mekhi Becton. Oren Burks. I feel like Oren Burks is an interesting one. I'm curious if the Eagles prioritize bringing him back and sort of lock him in as the guy who can play until Nakobe Dean. You all right?
I thought I brought water in here. I don't know where to put it. I left it in there.
It's out there. Go get it. It's fine.
All right. Thank you.
I feel like Oren Burks, you're probably not going to do much better than him on the market. So just bring him back.
Okay.
I think you want somebody that gives you that.
How do you feel about a Jack Sanborn?
I like a Jack Sanborn. I listened to the conversation to the pod on Friday. I think I'd rather just bring
the known commodity of Oren Burks.
Yeah, and especially how does that impact that? Like that would be a good example of, in terms of like comp pick formula stuff. Like why? Like
well, he won't. That's probably not going to qualify, but.
Sanborn isn't like that bad of a player. I think that he could be someone that could impact.
I don't think he's getting more than. I mean, the Bears turned down the tender, which would have been like 3.5.
Really?
So like
that's surprising.
3 or 4.
He gave them like good playing time early in his career.
Yeah,
because they were surprised. I remember there was when they signed T.J. Edwards, people in Chicago were shocked because they're like, oh, but Sanborn.
Yeah,
obviously. I mean, obviously TJ's a better player.
Zach, as it gets to Oren Burks, any movement on the road trip front?
I actually heard from someone this weekend who reached out and said, "Do you know how I can get in touch with Oren Burks?"
Really?
Yeah.
Just follow you around and you'll run into him at some point.
Geez.
Is there Oren was? I think
that's
Oren,
a little bit. That's also a little bit curious.
Why?
Someone's just reaching out to you. How do I get in touch with Oren Burks?
Yes. Yeah, someone was asking me how they can get in touch with Oren Burks. And
was it Howie?
I hope not.
It was not Howie. No, it was not Howie.
All right. We've also got Paris Campbell.
Yes.
LaRaven Clark, Britton Covey, Jack Driscoll, Kenny Gainwell, and Fred Johnson. We talked about Fred Johnson. How do you guys feel about Kenny Gainwell? You think he's going to have a market?
I don't think a robust one.
Yeah, right. Exactly. I think there will be people that would like to bring him in, but I don't think it'll be a huge flying out the door.
I believe he just got married recently, so congratulations to Kenny.
Oh, nice.
Yes. If I'm wrong, I apologize, but I believe I heard he just got married like last weekend or so.
News to his girlfriend. Avante Maddox, Rick Lovato. Is Lovato unrestricted?
Yes, he is.
Interesting. They haven't surprise. No movement there. They're gonna make a change.
I think Rick's like at the edge of his seat right now. Get a deal done. Yeah. I just saw a team extended their long snapper through like 2029. Who was that?
Some of these deals are like the Giants deal for their punter. Jamie Gilliam was giving him like $4 million a year or something like that.
Expecting to punt a lot.
Yeah,
I think there's probably like a niche in the space that someone could carve out to just do like the percentage of cap and just like only specialize in that and like provide context and instantly to like, all right, well, this will count towards X amount. This is how it compares to everybody else in the league.
Okay. Super chat from Nico, who says, how much for a super chat for us to crack some brewskis? I mean,
I don't think you have to convince Bo to.
What the hell?
No, you've done it on air before, and whenever we have a nighttime show, you're enjoying a glass of.
Whenever? That's not true.
No,
occasionally.
You're enjoying a glass of wine at night. There's nothing wrong with that.
Occasionally, not whenever.
I thought this is a compliment. This helps your.
You thought that's a compliment?
For sure, man of the people.
I mean, the answer is $10. I'll crack a brewski for $10.
We certainly have some back there.
Yeah, I got no problem with that.
What would it take for Zach to have one though?
Yeah, that's not happening. Question. I got a playoff game tonight.
Oh,
8:45.
What are the odds that you're going to get to play in that game?
I actually think good odds, decent odds. Yeah, I'm not expecting a major move tonight.
Okay,
could be wrong.
Fran, will you be on alert from, let's call it 8:15 to 10 o'clock for an emergency pod just in case Zach is mid-game?
Just in case. I'll be here, ready to go.
Okay. How are you feeling about this matchup?
You just made him rethink the entire process of going to the game. By the way,
I've already had this internal debate.
As if he hasn't thought about this.
I haven't been a very good teammate this year, so I think I need to get tonight.
The chat wants to know: can they go to the game? Can you reveal the location?
No, I'm not doing that.
Yes.
I'm not doing that.
Yes.
But how do I feel about tonight? I feel better than I felt. What our record suggests we are. We're not very good record this year, but I actually think we've lost some close games, and the team we're playing tonight is a good team because of the way the bracket works out. So I think it's the second seeded team, and we are the second the worst team in the league. But I actually think that we can stay competitive tonight.
Okay.
And potentially upset them.
Well, you got your full roster.
Yeah.
Well, I don't think I'm a big part of that.
Well, every little bit counts.
But actually, a lot of these people are Eagles fans, so I sent like an apologetic text last week. Like, I'm sorry, I haven't really been a good teammate. I haven't been around as much. And they're like, no, we're okay with the. It might be because I'm a bad player, but I mean, the reason is because of this Eagles playoff run. I haven't been around.
What is the level of player that an emergency pod would give you the most FOMO? So, like from Lou Nichols to Myles Garrett, where on the scale would make you upset that you missed out because you were at the game?
I wouldn't miss any. I'd feel bad about missing any show.
If it was a Lou Nichols show, you wouldn't be that upset though.
I mean, yeah, I
was
would
upset we did it. Not
that he missed it.
Still want to do the show. Probably Lovato. If there's like a Lovato, yeah. Right, so there's a Lovato emergency pod. I don't know how much I can contribute to that pod.
The Lovato line.
My promise to you, the listener and viewer, is that if the Eagles re-sign Rick Lovato this week, we will do an emergency Rick Lovato pod.
If they re-sign him, what if he signs somewhere else? Will we do an emergency show?
I think we do.
It's a big hole they got to fill.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean that's one where you got to fill that hole. You can't go into the draft with that one. I guess you could. Okay. Speaking of brackets, we did finally make the boys' name bracket last night.
There have been people in the chat asking for this.
Yes, they want to know how Puragu's doing.
64 names. Oh Too many. A lot of dogs in this one. We should have kept it to 32 like we did with the girls, but we made the choice to move on. A lot of names. You want me to go through it?
Do you have how far into the bracket are you? Did you complete the bracket?
No, interesting. Hold on, we got some news here. No. Oh no, this was just made the
Okay,
bracket.
you just made the bracket.
Okay, I have a note from
Man.
Sam Lynch, who was watching the show
Okay.
and probably knows more about this stuff than anybody in the world.
Yeah.
He says Rick Lavana was on a veteran salary benefit deal last year, which is 1 year at the minimum, so we had a discounted cap hit. Those players are not allowed to sign an extension and have to wait until the new year for their next contract. So it wouldn't surprise to have a new 1 year minimum deal signed soon.
I like that. Sam
That's
Lynch,
why
you're the
Sam's
man.
best.
Thank you, Sam.
Fantastic. All right, you want me to go through it quickly?
Or the 1 seed.
Cut me off if we get a need. if we get a signing. All right, I'm going to go through this very quickly. Abram, Xavier, Griffin, Ira, Derek, Otis, Cooper, Owen, August, Tanger, Ellis, Logan, Emmett, Leo, Atticus, Tanner, Afton, Isaac, Grant, Xander, Desmond, Oscar, Cole, Parker, Beckett, Spencer, Elias, Lyle, Evan, Jonah, Atlas, Theo, Alexander, Walter, Gavin, Jasper, Duncan, Nolan, Cody, Russell, Bennett, Simon, Eli, Malcolm, Everett, Julius, Arthur, Trevor, Anders, Troy, Felix, Jesse, Dylan, Milo, Calvin, Shiloh, Bryson, Silas, Edward, Marcus, Ezra, Julian, Arlo, Tristan, Puragu.
Can I tell you what? Can I ask you? Wait, was there seating involved?
Oh no.
Okay.
I do it like S curve, like a bracket,
Okay.
but based on alphabetical.
I'm rooting
So
for
it's-
Oscar.
Okay.
Only because the voices that you would do during story time for an Oscar, I think would be
That's
heightened.
good.
Yeah.
Very proud this week. Jane debuted her first impression.
Nice what you do.
She's been nailing a mini.
Oh yeah.
She's getting very good. A good mini.
Nice.
Nice.
There you go.
That's her father proud. I like that.
Absolutely.
That's great.
I know a
Nicely
few
done.
Oscars. Oscar's a good name.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, cross it off the list now.
I had a former editor at the Inquirer, Oscar Miller. I don't know if Oscar's watching, if I'm being honest with you, but Oscar was a very nice man. And then I had a guy who used to cut my hair, Oscar, who was awesome too.
Nice.
Yes.
Okay.
You like Oscar like for steak? Like, you like crab?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like crab
the
on
same way.
everything. Yeah. No, that's that back comment. Sorry.
Yeah, I think you're in trouble.
You can always
Bo.
count on Jamie to bring over the beers.
Bo's in trouble.
Pacific Go. We got Peroni.
You don't need to twist Jamie's arm.
We got Coors Light. We got Miller and the old Yards Pale, Bo.
You know what? Peroni is a nice afternoon.
It is.
A nice afternoon beer. Let's do it. We'll do the
All right.
Peroni.
I feel like I should open one so you don't have to drink alone.
Well,
It won't be me.
absolutely.
There we go. Chris is jumping in.
There's the
Pass them around.
$10. Thank you, Tim.
Michael B.
We got a bunch of good ones.
Michael B.
Michael
says,
B.
okay, 6-pack either tonight or during the emergency Lovato pod. Tim Durkin says, let's go, Bo. Nick says, now is it one beer per $10? That was not the deal. Kyle says, smash and brews. And Joe says, do you think ZB's team was like, wait, you weren't here? That's not very nice.
You know what?
He's the best passer on the team. He's
Got
a giving man.
My son's advice actually to me is don't pass.
Don't pass.
Don't pass.
Yeah, he's the opposite of me in his game.
Yeah.
He is a gunner, man. I would hate playing with him. He just shoots, but he's like, your team needs scoring. That's what he tells me.
Oh, interesting. Does he go to the games?
No,
Oh.
but I go to his games, and he's not. I tell him he needs to pass more. He's like, we need to score. You win with scoring.
It's not wrong.
Offense wins.
Yeah.
Tell him you tell him defense wins championships. What's your?
No, I say being a good teammate's the most important thing. I always tell
Good.
him for all his sports. I say the same thing over and over again. I don't care how you do. I care how you do it.
Good advice. All right. I feel like we're just getting started here. Interesting. This Milton Williams stuff is interesting.
Yeah, it's lingered on, huh?
Yeah, I was expecting a quicker resolution. Okay, this is interesting. Trevin Merrick,
Yeah.
the safety,
Your boy.
going to the Carolina Panthers, 3 years, $51
Jeez.
million. What's that? 17 a year.
17
Which
on those. Yep.
you gotta wonder, does that mean they're not going for Milton Williams? Is this like we're losing Milton, so we'll
they could
spend that money
redistribute
on
money.
Merrick?
I mean, I know they had money to
Can
spend.
they do both? Oh wait,
Here we go.
Rappaport. The Patriots are taking the biggest defender off the market as Milton Williams lands
Wow.
in New England for him
Wow.
and Mike G. So that's right. Carolina doesn't get Milton Williams. Instead, they get Merrick, and Milton Williams goes to the Panthers. We can change the headline on that VOD.
And now we have to do so. He's not playing next to Derek Brown, so he is now the face of that defensive line. Unless you think Christian Barmore, or I'm hoping. I know Christian
You're hoping
Barmore's dealt with
Barmore,
some health
yeah.
issues. Hoping the best for the Philly native, but Milton Williams is an integral part now of that Mike Vrabel
I
defense.
think all we got to do is just change the headline on that bad boy. And just, that's
So
good. Interesting.
are we thinking that the Patriots swooped in, or maybe the initial reports they misread the text and they saw, that there were lines crossed with the P teams, but no.
Someone told me that, and that's an interesting. I wonder if the agent, did they seed it out there that it was very close,
Yes.
so that to
Right.
up the Patriots into action. But my understanding was at the combine, someone said that that agency, the only comp they were using for Milton Williams in meeting with teams was Aaron Donald. It's like that's the level. That's
Wow.
the level that we're expecting.
Wow.
Blue Sky's not loading right now.
Down on all fronts.
Oh, that's not good.
Man.
Okay, well, I refreshed and we're good. We're okay.
Foreign agents really messing
Adam
around.
Adam Silver's really got his guys working.
Manfred and Silver are joining together.
Manfred and Silver, the diabolical combination.
Rap sheet says Williams $26 million a year.
Wow.
Wow.
That is nuts. I mean, good for I should
That's
say
awesome
good
for
for
Williams,
Milton
yes.
Williams. Good for Milton Williams.
So that puts him at third in the league behind just Chris Jones and Christian Wilkins last year. Christian Wilkins got 27.5 by the Raiders last year.
Tell you what, Jalen Carter's a happy camper right now. You know,
Yeah.
he's gonna break the bank machine.
26 a year is 4,104. I said 4,105.
Good for you.
Closest
You
to
win.
the pin.
Closest to the hole.
Yep.
Man.
And more than Aleem McNeil got.
Howie wins. Howie's sending that text to Tom right now.
And that is, that's going to be absolutely back into the third round comp pick.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Aleem McNeil got $24.5 million this fall.
So he joins a defense that really needed help on that defensive front. They signed Landry to be an edge rusher, but you're looking at their depth chart here. They have Christian Barmore, who, as I said, has been dealing with health issues, and Daniel Ekuale, Ekuale, Ekuale. Am I pronouncing that correctly?
I actually don't know.
Okay.
Because I didn't do his tape.
Okay,
going out.
yeah. Then they have Keon White at one edge. They have Dedrick Wise, but they need help on that defensive front. Milton Williams, if you're paying $26 million to Milton Williams, he's clearly the new face of your defense, and that is clear here. I mean, he got 2x what Harold Landry got on the open market.
Yeah.
Harold Landry's their edge rusher, so I think this speaks a lot to if Milton Williams wanted to be. I spoke to him about this. He wanted to be the face of a defense. He said he wanted to kind of be the guy who's the leader of that group. He is the clear leader of that defensive line now.
I mean, Patriots, you're hoping you get Barmore back. You get Barmore, Milton Williams, Harold Landry.
Yes.
Keon White had really good flashes early this year. Then that defense went completely in the tank. Then you add Carlton Davis to Christian Gonzalez.
Yeah.
You have Kyle Duggar at safety.
Unfortunately, you're throwing to the three of us on offense.
Yeah, they're gonna have to figure that out.
Travis Hunter.
Maybe Travis Hunter.
Interesting. Yeah, that's the makings of a good defense.
Yeah,
Good for Milton Williams.
good for Milton Williams.
That is the-
One of three players I talked to on media night when that in that craziness of Super Bowl week.
Oh man. Are there more super chats? Chase Daniel Plainview, disappointed that ZB wants to be a White House reporter. Are the ongoings of Philly's local government undeserving of your attention?
No, not at all. I mean, I could have said City Hall reporter, but I would say that if I'm choosing any beat, I'm choosing probably national more than local at that point, right? And so I'm talking about non-sports, national beat. The White House would be a fun one.
Matt Dio says, is Isaiah Rodgers money enough for a comp pick? I think if it is accurate as reported, 7.5 a year, I think it is for sure. And then Grace says, if you had no physical limitations, what position would you choose to play and why?
Oh, this is easy for me. Do you want to go first? Or?
No, go ahead.
Quarterback, without a doubt. You're the guy, right? I mean, you want to be the, you want to.
You want to be where the eyeballs are.
Yeah, you want to be the thermostat, right? So that's the quarterback.
I don't even need to be a good one. I could just be Jimmy Garoppolo and make $11 million this year. Yeah, it's quarterback.
Well, I mean, as an experienced bubble ball quarterback, the winningest of all time, I think for sure, quarterback.
But you wouldn't be where you are without the reliable receivers on the other end.
Certainly not.
Right.
Nor without the competition on the other side. You know, the Alex Zirkle to really push you and make you elevate your own game.
We have a long snapper deal.
I saw this. Speaking of the long snappers,
Trent Sieg from the Dallas Cowboys, 3 years, $4.45 million,
uncomfortable.
3.1 million guaranteed. So
I have no evaluation.
So the Cowboys are all in.
Yeah. I can't tell you what.
All right. A little surprised that we haven't heard a whiff of anything on Josh Sweat.
I am surprised by that too. I mean, maybe he's been in Colombia and he doesn't have, he needs to agree to the deal.
Well, Justin Fields is in Abu Dhabi.
Yeah,
I saw that. Could be like,
it's a good looking coffee.
Maybe are you watching White?
It was good looking coffee.
Are you watching White Lotus right now?
Yes.
Yeah, maybe he's at one of those wellness retreats and put the phone away and he hasn't corresponded.
Are you caught up on White Lotus?
I am.
This is a no spoilers question.
Okay.
This is no spoilers. But if you had to say which of the characters / actors is winning, like having the best season, you're most interested when they're on screen, and who is losing, what would you say? Because to me, it's very clear on both sides.
So who do I like the most? Like
who is the most interesting, most captivating to you, and who is like distractingly bad?
That's a good question. I mean, I feel like we're spending a lot of time with the family from North Carolina.
Yeah.
Right. So, but I think the three women are like are a fun storyline for me. So, I don't know. I'm actually I guess the one that I find distractingly bad is or I should say distractingly bad, but I'm not as interested in Greg Gary.
The guy.
Yeah. Not as interested in that. You know what I'm enjoying? I'm enjoying the security guard. Guard. Yeah. I'll tell you what though. He's got to keep his eye on the prize a little bit more.
No spoilers. No spoilers.
Exactly.
That was a bad job by him on last night's episode. To me, Amy Lou Wood, who is the Manchester girlfriend.
Okay.
Like absolutely electric. Every scene.
You think so?
I think she's crushing it. Yeah.
Okay.
I think she's the most captivating character by far. I think she's winning every scene she's in. Meanwhile, Jason Isaacs putting on one of the worst performances I think I've ever seen.
Which one's Jason Isaacs?
He is the father in the North Carolina family.
Oh, really?
I mean, the dipping in and out of the accent, like it's so bad.
I mean that
really bad. I think.
I've never taken that. What's it?
No spoilers.
Okay. Sorry, yeah, no spoilers.
But yes, the way that he acts that, not good. So there you go. There's my.
I feel like Schwarzenegger's son's getting a lot of attention. Saxon, is that his name?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, he is good at playing the.
I feel like that character's in.
Character
I feel like that character's in every single episode. Like every single season. Like that specific character.
That's a fair point. Although I guess that is the kind of person who you would run into at any of these resorts.
Yeah, like that like Broy. I feel like that character.
Yeah.
He just changed the name, but it's the same archetype.
I don't disagree with that. Okay.
I got to catch up.
Yeah,
we're
a Severance man.
Yes. Well, yes. But this is one where, like, Severance I'm watching on my own. Meg broke off. She's just not into Severance. I just can't.
Rachel's out on Severance too.
She said it got too weird for
her.
Too
depressing.
It's amazing. I think it's been excellent this season. But we have to catch up on because Meg does enjoy White Lotus, so we're a couple episodes behind.
Yeah, my take on White Lotus, and this is every year, is like I like going to that place, right? Like it brings you, I like destination type shows where, I've never been to a Thailand resort, right? So it's pretty cool. You feel like you're experiencing something different. We have some D tackle news here, by the way.
Okay, let's hear it.
Poona Ford is signing with the Rams, 3 years at just under $30 million.
Wow.
Their replacement for Bobby Brown.
Do you think they used Aaron Donald as the comp in the meetings?
Something tells me it fell just a bit short of that. I mean, Poona Ford is one of the smaller D tackles in football, but he's a good run defender, nice backup nose tackle.
You got to compare the contracts at defensive tackle between Poona and BJ Hill.
Yeah. Take a look.
Tit for tat. You know?
as some would say.
Yes. That's interesting. I like Poona Ford.
Yeah.
All right.
Let's see if we got
Waiting around
Twitter's back
for now. Ooh. No, not yet. We're only one episode in, right? 2 episodes in? Okay. We like to wait to do a little mini marathon
binge
with the beginning of the season. Wait for a couple to build up. No. Okay. Oh, okay. Why would there not be idols?
Or how many, I guess I should say.
Got it.
Yeah.
Too many? Okay.
I have some more D tackle news here.
Yeah.
Larry Ogunjobi. Ogunjobi, I'm sorry, from Charlotte. I remember him. The Pittsburgh Steelers have released him, so he hits the market. Does not
becomes attractive because he doesn't qualify.
Exactly.
A former Eagle off the market.
Ooh.
Quarterback Nick Mullins on a 2-year, $6.5 million deal to the Jacksonville Jaguars.
I would argue, if you're Nick Mullins' family, please stop watching the show. Probably the worst training camp performance I've ever seen. The year that Nick Mullins was in camp.
Oh, disagree.
No, yeah.
I have seen worse quarterbacks,
Right.
but not quarterbacks
But
who were in the
expectation.
league.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Right. Okay.
Certainly Clappin Thorpen was worse that summer, but he never made it in the league.
Right.
Nick Mullins started games and came
Sure.
to the Eagles having had started games and was just unwatchable.
One guy who had just a brutal camp that I think of every time is Patrick Robinson. Patrick Robinson was bad.
Oh, I was just thinking quarterbacks. And I thought Matt McGloin was.
Matt McGloin had a rough one.
Yeah, that was a tough one for him. Nice guy though. But so Nick Mullins, of course, he's following Grant Udinski to Jacksonville, and this continues. So, what do we got?
Cutting you off. We have bigger quarterbacks.
Yes.
The Seahawks have landed Sam Darnold.
There
you go.
Now I don't know if that's that's a little bit too dramatic. Like the Seahawks have landed Sam Darnold. They're locked into mediocrity. But that is
3 years, $100 million.
110.
110.
$1.5 million.
Oh, I read that wrong.
Including 55 guaranteed.
Oh,
actually not that
Pelissero said 3 for 100.
Schefter has 110 and a half.
Oh.
55 guaranteed.
Meet you at Starbucks.
A million here, a million there. Sets that up, right? Yeah. So Sam Darnold. This has been. I don't want to say this. Well, this has been the expectation since Geno Smith got traded.
Yeah.
I know there was some late Pittsburgh buzz, but this makes sense certainly makes sense for Sam Darnold. Whether it makes sense for Seattle, I heard you at the top of the show saying that they are dismantling their team. They're trying to do this weird transition right now. I know Sam Darnold has experience in this Kubiak scheme. Last year in Minnesota where he thrived. He was obviously in San Francisco the year before that. I'm curious. I liked him coming out. He's only 27. I thought he was in some bad situations with the Jets. Obviously, even in Carolina, they fired Joe Brady in the middle of that year. I didn't quite understand that, but Good for Sam Darnold. And
That is like it's a nice middle ground
It is.
deal where they're not paying too much, and
Yeah.
and even if they draft you could draft a quarterback, they
Yes.
probably won't given this class, but it's not too onerous to move off of if you find a more permanent solution.
Geno Smith was entering a contract year this year. I'm pretty sure he was set to be a free agent next year, so he was going to want a new deal. And my guess is he's going to be, when he does sign a new deal, it'll be something in that area. It might be a little bit less, but it's going to be just about in that area. So they decided, all right, let's just make the switch.
honestly, I would rather a 27-year-old Sam Darnold and a third-round pick than a 35-year-old Geno Smith.
Right.
I think you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. I agree with that.
Now, I would imagine if you're following quarterback dominoes here, this probably means Aaron Rodgers to Pittsburgh.
Unless the Giants, but yes.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think Rodgers would
He's
probably
leaning
prefer
Pittsburgh,
Pittsburgh. If it's up
yeah.
to him, Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
If I'm Pittsburgh, well,
And if you're the Giants,
I mean, Russell Wilson.
Kirk Cousins, Russell Wilson.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson feels very New York Giants. Like that's,
Yeah.
Classy guy. It's almost meant to happen.
He was actually visiting the Giants last year
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
when the Steelers called and
That's
offered.
right.
Yeah.
Super chat from Vince, who says, longer Becton sits. Do you think his prices are higher or lower than expected?
Yeah, Vince, good question. First of all, thank you for the super chat, Vince. I appreciate
And for lunch.
Appreciate the contribution. Honestly, the longer someone lingers, I think the more advantageous it is for the team. Money goes early, and yeah, I think that now we're only 2.5 hours in, of course, right?
Yep.
But if this goes to tomorrow, if this goes to Wednesday, then I think that definitely favors the team. So I think there's more of a chance he comes back to the Eagles.
But have there been any guards who have signed, who have set the market yet?
No, not necessarily.
There's
Trey
just been
Smith's
tackles.
franchise
right?
tag. Yeah.
You're right.
So maybe that's part of the, maybe there's
they're
a
waiting for a shoe to
cascading
drop.
effect for the first guard to sign.
Yep.
I was actually curious, when because Fran made the great point about the Chiefs that they tend to like these Orlando Smith, Juwan Taylor types, and I was wondering if they would go after Mekhi Becton as a starting tackle for them. And that obviously they chose Jaylon Moore, which I didn't quite understand. I had the same reaction you guys did. But Andy Reid has forgotten more about offensive line play than I will ever know.
Johnny Munt signing with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Very exciting news. Grace has a super chat.
Grant Udinski's got a lot of pull there. He's just bringing all the Vikings backups, right? Like,
Yeah.
yeah. He went to CB West, by the way, Grant Udinski.
Ah, nice.
Alma mater of Matt Gelb.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday. Grace has a diabolical super chat. She says,
Yeah,
if you
this
were
is bad.
forced to watch something on a 24-hour loop as punishment, would you choose the Aaron Hernandez FX show, the Aaron Rodgers documentary Enigma, or the recent State of the Union Pick Your Poison? This is pretty easy to me. It's definitely the Aaron Hernandez FX show because you're going 24 hours. First of all, you want enough episodes, so you're getting not just the same thing over and over. And I feel like the Aaron Hernandez show, there's some camp in there. Like you can sort of laugh along with it, as opposed to the other things which are taking themselves too seriously or just completely depressing.
I got to admit, the only of these three that I've watched was the Aaron Hernandez FX show.
You did watch it, the whole thing?
Yeah, I watched the whole thing. And
There's so much to do in your life. Why?
Because I could fall asleep to it. It was light.
Right.
All right. Okay.
So that's I tend to fall asleep to light things. I did not watch the State of the Union.
NFL Network doubling down on Sam Darnold, 100.5 million. So maybe that was but still the 55 guaranteed. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I haven't. And then the Aaron Rodgers. I read the book. I read Ian O'Connor's book, but I have not read. I've not watched the documentary.
I would do the FX show based solely off the comedic value.
Yeah.
I only saw clips on social. Didn't watch a minute of it.
Right. And then there were a couple funny, just like lookalikes, like this guy.
Right,
the person
yeah,
they
yeah,
picked to lookalike
Yeah.
whoever it was.
Sure.
So that's kind of fun. Yeah, the Giants, man. It's Aaron Rodgers or Russell Wilson or Kirk Cousins, right?
I mean, I would just say Cam Ward or bust if I'm them.
What can they? But if the Titans want Cam Ward,
Then that's the problem.
they can't get him, right?
Right. That's why you don't beat the Colts
That's right. Forgot about that.
in Week 16. Yeah.
All right. Do you have some of your old scouting reports?
Oh, I do.
To lean
Oh,
on?
I love
Yeah,
this.
there we go. Yeah, I do. Hit me.
Let's do. Well, you know what? Let's do Milton Williams.
Oh, I
Because
love
you
that.
liked Milton
Yes.
Williams a lot.
All right, that's a good one. All right, give me a sec.
So that would have been
21, right?
21.
All right. So Milton Williams, he was my number 2 defensive tackle that year. So it was Christian Barmore, Milton Williams,
Oh, the narratives are gathered together.
Levi Onwuzurike. Those were my top 3 guys that year.
Was there someone you missed on who was hiring?
I was definitely Aleem McNeil was DT7. And there were some people that were higher on him. I projected
Like
him as
Tom
a
Donahue?
starter. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
I projected him as a starter, but not as like the high impact player that he became.
Okay.
Also, Digizua I graded as a starter. But who did I miss big on?
Nobody big.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it. No one big from
And
that
you were
group.
higher than consensus on Milton.
I was
So, yeah,
I was
that's a big
definitely
win
higher.
for you,
Yes. All right. So real quick, let me just zoom in. All right. So 2-year starter at Louisiana Tech. Good height, lean frame, defensive end, defensive tackle hybrid. Has gotten a lot better over the course of his career. High motor that chases in pursuit. Good athlete, rangy, good change of direction. Is it better for me to go through all the notes, or should I just read the final summary? Maybe I'll just read the final summary. Let's read the final summary. All right, so this is a high character kid with position flexibility who has added weight and figures to be a full-time player inside. Converted edge rusher who just recently moved inside to tackle as a junior. He's a quick twitch athlete with disruption ability against the run and the pass, but he doesn't just rely on his feet to win. He has heavy hands to jar opponents on contact, and he plays extremely hard on every snap. He was consistently productive as a 2-year starter, and I believe that will carry over to the NFL as a starting 3 technique tackle who can slide up and down the line. He is scheme versatile as well, and he should be able to find a home for anyone. For the Eagles specifically, because back then I would do just a little note for like an Eagles transition. I thought that he would be instant number 3 defensive tackle with the ability to provide starting quality reps for us very quickly. Takes over for Fletcher Cox down the road was what I wrote pre-draft on Milton Williams. I compared him to Malik Jackson. I forgot that.
Interesting.
Yeah, I compared him to Malik Jackson coming
doesn't
out.
have the same frame, but
Yep.
yeah.
I mean, he was a guy I remember watching him for the first time. It was after Super Bowl because he was a junior declaration. Didn't watch him at all in the fall. He declared right before the Senior Bowl, and I was like, all right, I'll watch him after the Senior Bowl. And I watched him, and I was like, oh man, this guy is awesome. He looks really, really strong.
Tested crazy.
Well, that was the year they didn't have the combine because of COVID. So they didn't have the combine. So he went to the pro day and he tested for a defensive tackle. Like all of those numbers were otherworldly. 4.63 in the 40-yard dash, 6.96 in the 3-cone, 4.33 in the short shuttle, 38.5-inch vert. I mean, that just like outrageous numbers for that position. But yeah, that was my Milton Williams report.
Pretty good. I mean, you nailed it.
I thought I hit that one.
Yeah,
Where was he on my?
100%.
I had him at 30 on my board.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
you
he
nailed
was
it.
number
Good for
30. He
you.
was
This
30
is
on
a
my board.
$26 million a year player.
Yep, he was 30
I
on my
mean,
board.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
More than Brady. Wow. Jeez. No. I mean,
That's
I
pretty cool. That's
I
pretty
want you to
cool.
be here for a long time, but a team
pretty
should
good.
hire you. That's a really good
That's a
evaluation.
lot of strawberries.
Yeah.
Safety Texans, Eric Murray signing with the Jaguars on a 3-year deal, according to Maurice Jones-Drew.
Oh, there you go. He would know.
There you go. Now, somebody in the chat says Slay to the Steelers. I haven't seen that, but
Keep an eye.
Jordan Schultz just said, breaking, free agent cornerback Darius Slay is signing with the Steelers.
There you go,
wow,
Zach.
you called it,
There
Zach.
you
Nicely
go.
done.
You know what? Sometimes you talk to people
Zach,
and they go,
Zach,
no.
Zach,
See?
Zach.
No. But you know what? You try to put little seeds, little crumbs out there for the audience, and maybe Slay to the
hope for a
Steelers
bite.
was one of those crumbs.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
You got any more crumbs? I'm hungry.
Try to intersperse them over the course of the show. That bagel looked good. Where was that bagel from?
The bagel place.
Aptly named,
Yes,
right?
exactly.
It's like a pancake shop.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
So-
Slay. How do you feel?
I'm not surprised by this.
Yeah.
I actually think this is a good resolution for the Eagles. And I say that because I don't think the Eagles wanted to bring him back. And I think that if he was lingering
because they want to set it up for Keely Ringo.
yes, exactly. Or a mid-level, you did a great job identifying all these mid-level guys that are out there. It's a robust market for, I mean, I thought Isaiah Rodgers was going to be in that, but I thought for like that $3 to $5 million cornerback, not the $5 to $10 million cornerback. So it makes sense for the Eagles there. I don't know what the money is, but I imagine he's getting paid more than he would for the Eagles. And this is a good situation for Slay in that he joins a veteran team that's competing for a title. Okay, it's a team that, look, he would probably start over Dante Jackson.
Yeah.
Right. They have Joey Porter Jr. on the other side. He has Minkah Fitzpatrick, Deshaun Elliott at safety.
Yeah.
So it's a good secondary. T.J. Watt, Cameron Hayward, Keanu Benton. I mean, Alex Highsmith. That's a good defense.
Yeah.
He has a very good relationship with Terrell Austin, their defensive coordinator. I think that this is not a team where it's just like, all right, just pay me for my final year. This is a team that, by the moves they made, they traded a second-round pick for DK Metcalf. They are trying to win, and Darius Slay could be part of the fabric of that team.
So is your expectation now that the Eagles will not really sign a frontline corner, that they will let the market come to them, maybe add a Steven Nelson type the second week of free agency, and they will set things up for Keely Ringo to take that job?
Yeah, I would say everything except the second week of free agency. Maybe it's a guy that they signed the next 3 days, but I think in terms of price point, yeah, I would imagine it's a guy signing on their terms. It would surprise me if they turn around and, like, I really like Paulson Adebo. That's my favorite corner on the market this year, right? But it would surprise me if they gave a corner $10 million. I don't think they're signing a corner to start over Keely. I think they're trying to sign a corner to, I guess, compete with Keely Ringo.
We went through sort of the top of the market corners earlier in the show, but let me just read the free agent corners. Tell me if any of these names jump out to you. Okay. Michael Jackson Sr.
No.
Byron Murphy. Brandon Stevens, who played a bunch of snaps for the Ravens last year.
Michael Jackson Sr. played for Clint Hurt in Seattle, so there could be a connection there. It's a nice corner. I do like him, but I think he would be like that level of player that would be good one to bring in to let Keely compete with.
We've mentioned Benjamin Santa-Justa.
Yeah.
Noah Igbenogany, talking about a nickel at that point, right?
Yeah.
Rasul Douglas.
I think that's your marker too.
If the Bills are not bringing him back, that sort of does make sense to me. It's also a nice story for him. Go full circle. DJ Reed, probably out of their price range. Dante Jackson, Christian Fulton. What do you think about Christian Fulton? Too good?
I liked him last year, and then
sign him last year, not this year, right?
But he had a decent year. Excuse me, a decent year with the Chargers last year.
Yeah. I haven't done a ton of work on him, to be honest, so I don't know if I can give a fully from this past season. I don't know if I can give an educated thought on that.
There's a name I'm waiting for you to say.
Mike Hughes, Jonathan Jones, Eric Stokes, Kendall Fuller, Shaq Griffin, Nate Hobbs, Isaac Yadam, Ugo Amadi, Akella Witherspoon, Adoree Jackson.
Waiting for a former first-round pick or a former Syracuse.
No, neither.
Ronald Darby.
No.
Tre'Davious White.
You got any Philly natives on there?
Darnay Holmes.
Not a Philly native.
Amani Oruwariye.
No, Philly adjacent.
Cam Sutton. Kindle
Vildor.
I know. That's a long non-joke.
Yeah.
Asante Samuel Jr.
There you go. That's the name I was waiting for you to say.
Okay.
Asante Samuel Jr. What do you think of Asante Samuel Jr.?
We discussed him earlier. I think I can be convinced on both ways. One, yes, like this is a zone corner through and through who has ball instincts. Also, the book on him is he's not quite physical enough, not for this defense. But in terms of a maybe 1 year rebuild your value, go out and hit the market again next year.
Yeah.
I mean, what a story that would be. It'd be fantastic. And I think they did like him in the draft.
Right.
Yes.
Like Fulton, I didn't watch a ton of the Chargers defense last year, so I can't give like a fully educated thought.
It was a weird situation this year.
Yeah.
He had a stinger, but like the Chargers sort of downplayed the significance of that injury. He said it was more severe than the team seemed to think it was, so something odd there. But that's a good level of player.
Yes.
But I think he might command a little bit more money than I think he would command comp pick qualifying money for sure. What do you think?
I mean, I was wrong on Isaiah Rodgers, right? I mean, I tend to think that the third corner, the 2-3 corner is going to be $2 to $5 million. But I was wrong about that. So yeah, it obviously depends what the price is. But if the price is right, that's a guy. I'm assuming Paulson Adebo is too much for them, right? If Asante Samuel Jr. is $10 million plus, then no. If he's $8 million plus, then no. If he's in the $5 million range, then yes, absolutely.
Les just tweeted this that I think is a good framing. Like letting Slay and Rodgers go and not replacing them, you're turning a position of need or a position of strength into a position of need. You know, it becomes much shallower. They do still have Eli Ricks there. Maybe they believe in Eli Ricks as the fourth corner on the outside.
Right.
But I do think they could use a veteran body there who could be counted on if need be.
Yes. Now, and by the way, there's just quick quarterback news.
Yes.
If we want to say Justin Fields, favorite of mine, goes to the New York Jets. 2 years, $40 million or $30 million guaranteed. So does not keep them out of a quarterback market, but I imagine it allows them to kind of buy a year. Next year might be a better quarterback draft class.
We're also seeing a middle class at quarterback contract develop too, because we haven't seen anybody with a $20 million a year number. Literally, there's nobody actually even like remotely close to that. From beneath that, the biggest was a 12 and a half for Gardner Minshew, and the another one would be 25 Geno. So that's interesting. That's the first one that's close to that right now in the quarterback market.
So to get back to the corners, I would say that, Bo, you've done a great job over the years that I've worked with you, really identifying it as a position that does not age well. I would be more apt to go after. I mean, I know we joke about like the affinity I have for former first-round picks, but kind of the reclamation project. You know, not to say Eric Stokes is the guy you go after, but that guy, 25, 26 years old, who maybe just needs to be in a different situation, similar to what Rasul Douglas was at one point, than to go after a Rasul Douglas now. Now, if it's someone like Kendall Fuller who has inside-outside versatility, because I also I know fans shudder when I say this because I've received pushback. I don't think the Eagles have closed the door on Cooper DeJean playing the outside. I know he was so effective in the slot. I think
full time, like when they're a nickel on the outside.
Well, I think long term that's how they project him. So it's just a matter of if it happens this year or the year after. But I think that if there's someone who they sign who has inside-outside versatility, I wouldn't rule it out. I mean, if I use this, I say this because I think they feel this way. That let's say DJ Reed is a number 2 corner, maybe not like a true number 1. He's making what, 15 million?
Yeah, no, it's right.
16 million. Like that's what Cooper DeJean will be worth on the open market. Whereas Jordan Lewis signed as the highest paid slot. What did he sign for today? I didn't see the number, but I got to imagine
it's more valuable.
Exactly.
Sure.
Well, but here's the thing though, is that I feel like one player that, well, I shouldn't say that he got comped to, but there were talks last year that a player that Cooper DeJean was similar to was Marlon Humphrey.
Exactly.
And Humphrey has played inside outside. Humphrey's deal is at just under $20 million a year. Like I think there is precedent for the guy that is your starting outside corner that comes inside, especially in spots that can still get that money.
And I think that's the way to use him. There's certain weeks where you're like, we need him to be on the inside, either for the run fits or against this slot receiver. But then there are other weeks where you're like, no, we want him on the outside, manning this guy up one-on-one.
Yeah, it's interesting. I feel. Do you think that we're just going to get nothing from the Eagles today? It's going to be all going, nobody coming. Apologies to Julio.
That's a good one. Look, when I spoke to someone earlier, and of course they're saying this, but they're like, "Yeah, we got nothing brewing." Now, again, if they had something brewing, it's not like they're telling me something big's about to happen, right? But sometimes there's like radio silence.
But of course, I mean, they're doing the work on everybody.
Yeah,
right. And so there will be someone who they're surprised to find out the market is more tepid on, and then they maybe will be able to jump in.
And if you recall, after the last Super Bowl, okay, so that not the last Super Bowl win, the last Super Bowl they went to, so the 23 offseason, day 2 was really the big day because that's when they brought back Slay, they brought back Bradbury because day 1 they thought Bradbury was going for a certain number. They thought they hoped they would bring back C.J. Gardner-Johnson. Jesse Bates went for a huge number. CJ Gardner-Johnson wanted Jesse Bates money. They were planning to release Slay. Okay. Then they decided to bring Slay back. That all happened day 2 for the exact reason you mentioned, because as much as we talk about how these deals happen before free agency, really a guy might have an idea of what he's going to get. If he doesn't get that, then the market changes, the price changes, and that's when the Eagles could swoop in.
Zach,
Yeah.
Oh, no.
we're on CNN.
We are on CNN.
Oh, wow. There you go.
This is your dream. Congratulations to you.
You're going to get that White House beat call before you know it.
if the governor gets in. How about that?
Very funny.
Are you happy with the photo?
I couldn't tell actually. Was it a photo or?
It looked like it was video.
Oh, I thought it was a still.
video.
I thought it was a still.
I thought that was video
Big
playing.
shout out to Tim Harris.
Okay.
Oh.
Deep up Tim Harris.
You know, that press office is pumped. They're getting a bang for their buck right now.
No, it's video.
Okay.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Tim Harris. Were you with me with the Kafka, or was it Tim?
Yeah, I was with you.
It was you. You were the
Yeah,
shooter.
I was with you. Yeah.
It's too bad.
What clip did they choose? I guess we're not watching it.
The one with the nudity.
No, but no, I know, but what answer was it? I'm curious. Which?
Well, I don't think they played the
No,
audio.
I'm watching it now.
Oh.
Wait.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, that's funny.
Bo's voice.
You have multiple.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
no, I got
yeah.
multiple feeds up here. Sorry. I was like, wow, Bo, you've really made it. You're on CNN.
There we go. There we go.
Mm,
It was a great interview you guys did.
thank you. Look at that. PHLY Sports. Thank you for that. Look, I like that.
There you go.
We talked about the White House. I don't even need the White House beat. I got the Eagles beat is landing us in the White House.
A lot of beat talk on BJ Hill Day, you know?
I have a feeling,
20 minutes too late. I apologize.
I gotta say, not to open this can of worms, but there's gonna be a lot of interesting show conversation in June when the Eagles visit the White House and how we navigate that one.
We'll see if that happens or not. Cam Bynum, the Viking safety, going to the Colts on a 4-year, $60 million deal. So 15 per.
Yeah.
Let's do another Fran scouting report.
Oh, just in time for me to turn my laptop off. Hold on.
Nice.
I got you. Give me
Are you
give me a
doing? You
minute.
pulling a Zach?
I wanted to save some battery. I didn't bring my charger today. I should have brought the charger,
man.
knowing that we're going to be
Three-hour
a 3-hour
podcast
pod.
It's already
Poor
time.
planning by
We're
me.
13 minutes out. We got to start thinking how long we're going to take this bad boy.
Oh, Paulson Adebo off the board. We talked about that.
We did.
Have you been here?
No. I think he actually wasn't here when.
Oh, he wasn't here for that one?
Yeah.
So that means it was 2 hours ago.
Sorry.
Are you still not using the
See,
chronological Twitter? Are you really still not using chronological?
No, I guess not. No,
Should I do the Paulson Adebo scouting report?
Okay, that's
Bears making a big move after addressing the interior of their offensive line. They are signing Dayo Odingbo,
Off the board.
the big defensive lineman from the Colts, versatile. You know what's funny? The Bears. How many different things are the Bears going to try? They keep signing these guys, but I don't know. I like Odingbo.
All right. What report do you want?
Let's do. How about Mekhi Becton?
Oh, it's a good one. Sure.
2020.
20. All right, so Mekhi Becton, obviously that was a year when you had a bunch of tackles go in the top half of the first round.
Yes.
So Jedrick Wills, Tristan Wirfs, Andrew Thomas, Mekhi Becton. That was actually the order I had them in. So I had Wills as 1, Wirfs 2, Thomas at 3, and Becton at 4. My final, so Becton, man, he was ginormous. So 6'7" and a quarter, 364 pounds, just over 35.5-inch arms. My final report, actually, I did my reporting a little differently back then in terms of how I wrote guys up, but Teams that value size and length up front will love Mekhi Becton, but he's scheme and position versatile, has some technical things to work out, but has the tools to overcome that early on while refining them. A capable starter at left or right tackle who should be one of the better linemen in the league if he's able to hit his ceiling. I've got a much longer report. I had questions about it was mainly like hand usage and things like that. Obviously, all the tools were all there, but he was fourth on that list for me from that group. Yeah, the way I wrote guys up was a little bit different back then. So rather than me reading a long long thing, I'll just give you the short version there. But yeah, I watched 5 or 6 games from that final season and liked him, but wasn't over the moon. Still gave him a pretty big grade.
Mike is breaking news in the chat. He says Ohtani to the Dodgers.
Wow.
In your defense, I think you go to the site if your settings are for that to be your main thing. It's not.
I was driving I was in the car. Sorry.
You don't have nothing to apologize for.
The social media was down.
Which you're checking as you drive.
I actually was today. Yeah. It wasn't working.
Shield's gonna drive in and beat you up.
I'm sorry, Shield.
3 years, $48 million, so 16 per year for Odingbo in Chicago. If there's someone in the chat who you want to hear Fran's scouting report on,
there you go.
Let's do that.
That's a good way to do it.
Let us know what you think. 10 minutes to go. Are we gonna close this thing right at 3?
I feel like I mean, did you guys think that they were going to sign anybody today? I thought it was going to be a quiet day, Eagles-wise.
Yeah, we spoke before the show how we're going to do more NFL.
Like hanging out.
Yeah,
more
that's what I
NFL
mean.
analysis.
But just in terms of like expecting anything.
Yeah,
Eagles-wise.
I've been hoping to kind of flex more of my NFL bona fides, so I thought I was viewing this.
Listen, you're writing about the Cardinals.
I was hoping this show would be an opportunity to do that a bit. So, this is fun.
Yeah, you gave great Paulson Adebo nugget there.
Paulson Ademi.
He was my look. I do feel, I don't want to say vindicated, but I feel I had an accurate gauge on his market.
Yeah. I was what's funny is because you brought him up like 20 minutes ago, 30 minutes ago.
Oh,
and and I was like, does Zach know?
Yeah, that's I blame Saquon.
Do you have your 2018 notes?
Yeah. What do you got?
BJ Hill.
Of course.
NC State.
Yeah.
Good NC State defense back then.
Yeah, they were pretty good at being able to put players in the league. It was like every year they would have 3 or 4 players.
That was the same defense as Bradley Chubb.
Right. So BJ Hill was my 10th defensive tackle. Bobby BJ Hill.
Oh.
Back then.
Much less exciting.
Depends on who you ask. All right, BJ Hill.
Although, Bobby, there's some connectivity.
A big kid with a good feel for playing at the point of attack. His upside is limited, not ready to play a major role right away, but once he's spent time in an NFL weight room and fixes his issues with pad level, he should be a serviceable run stuffer. I would like him to get a little bit better as a pass rusher as well, but that would be icing on the cake. I saw more of a primary run defender. He's outperformed what I had for him. I had him as an average starter. I would say he's outperformed that, especially as a rusher. He's gotten a lot more disruptive. And again, back then I used to do like really long notes. I actually talked with a few people high up in like scouting when I would send them my notes, and they would say like, "Yeah, you gotta tighten. Yeah, it's too much. Like it's too much detail. Like you want to try and like tighten it up and make the summary a little bit longer. So then you just have to read the summary. So it was right around this time when
I hate that. I hate that feedback.
It's actually good feedback. I think you need an editor. Everybody needs it.
Right. Well, yeah, everyone does need an editor.
Well, no, it's I almost think of the great story from Jordan Rodriguez with the Rams, how they've like they're doing like emojis for a scouting report, like in terms of like with traits and stuff. It's like rather than even write 2 sentences on this, it's easier to digest. Just put if we all know
if you trust, if you trust the person giving the information,
right,
then sometimes less is more.
Yeah,
right.
So back then,
the expertise.
Yeah, back then it was. I mean, this a lot of words. How many words is
that? Super chat from Ben TV says, "Any trade ideas for the edge? How about Josh Hines Allen?"
I don't see Josh Hines Allen getting traded. He just signed that mammoth deal, and I think he's actually a cornerstone player for him. But in terms of the trade,
I mean,
market,
listen, I do think if you're thinking about the Eagles making a big splash, a trade is so much more. I mean, free agency's the best guys are basically already gone.
Yeah, let me look at some of the trade candidates.
A trade thing is very possible.
So Bo mentioned Tyree Wilson as a trade candidate. What's that?
Yeah, I don't think that's not moving anybody's needles.
No, but I'm just saying as a guy who could potentially be traded.
What about Josh Hines Allen's running mate?
Trayvon Walker.
Yeah.
That would be a fascinating one to me.
He's a good player. Like I don't think they're in the
player.
business of giving up good players, but if they're throwing a lot of money around, maybe they see that.
And look, he was a traits based pick.
Yeah.
Trent Baalke was more of a traits based drafter relative to James Gladstone, or I should say relative to the Rams' history. Right? They already paid Josh Hines Allen.
Yeah.
He has obviously that Georgia connection, so the Eagles would have the infrastructure in place. But Fran, I think that's a wonderful idea.
That'd be one I'd be very excited.
Yeah, that's
by.
Interesting. I mean, and then we don't even need to say it, but
Georgia. Right.
Have it all.
Just said that.
Did you?
Yeah.
Okay. I apologize.
It's okay. I've done it once or twice before.
Yes. That's true. Manifestable with a super chat says, can Fran do Carson Vincent? He looked like a beast.
Oh, man. Deep cut. Sure. Carson Vincent is a tackle from Alabama A&M from this year's draft class.
From this year.
It's from this year's draft class.
Big dude, 6'8", right?
Yeah, big kid. I thought he got a solid week down in Mobile at the Senior Bowl. It wasn't a great week, but it was a solid week. It's just over 6'7", 314 pounds. Here is my final write-up, which, by the way, if you want all of the write-ups on all of these players, you can go to the draft database at allphly.com, become a diehard. We've got the great deal going on right now, so you can get access to all these. But a 5-year starter in the SWAC at left tackle. Vincent is an athletic kid with an underdeveloped frame that he will need to fill out. Hopefully that added weight comes with considerable gains from a play strength standpoint, because right now he just does not have enough sand in his pants to take on a bull rush, and he does not create enough movement at the point of attack. For a guy playing at a lower level of competition, he gave up a lot of production and was penalized a lot. He didn't look outstanding against the one SEC team that I studied him against. Developmental project that will need a ton of work, while also proving that he can play both left and right tackle, because he's been in a left tackle only at Alabama A&M. So
that is awesome. What's the Alabama A&M film like?
So that's the one good thing about when they do play like an SEC team. It's like, all right, like.
Sure.
So that the one that I watched, they played Auburn, and I was like, all right, that's the first game I'm going to watch. Alabama A&M is not that's not a bad one. You get into some of those schools though, and it's you get to like Sacramento State, and some of it could be tough.
Well, because I don't have the same access to the film database that you have, right? But I remember when I was doing some JLX Hunt work before the draft last year, like 2 weeks before, because I admittedly didn't know much about him during the season.
Right.
And so like 2 weeks before, when his name was surfacing and I was looking it up, and I was like, I need a better camera angle here. I need something that I can see this guy more. Yeah,
it's rough. Sometimes you get to those tools and it's like you have fun finding the fun things in the background. Like you got a bouncy house there in the end zone and things like that. But Vincent, that he is one where I will overweigh the Senior Bowl or that kind of an experience where it's like, all right, because you're getting him against that level of competition as opposed to what he was doing against,
Grambling.
Right, exactly.
There's an interesting report from Tom Pelissero that says the Eagles haven't officially released Darius Slay.
I saw that.
Yet.
Yeah, right.
And so it's possible that this would be like a deal that the Eagles are working out with the Steelers on Darius Slay.
Interesting.
But either way, Slay is going to the Steelers, but it hasn't been officially transacted yet.
Yeah, I thought they were going to do it at the start of the league year in terms of the release, and they would give him, but
that makes sense.
But maybe, look, if Howie,
why not take if we were just a trade,
take a seventh,
a flop of 7th round picks. CDP before we close out says, did John Snyder trade DK and sign Darnold too close to Tyler Lockett? Is getting doged day.
And that's a reference to the last week Tyler Lockett's day. Right. Which I didn't quite understand.
All right. So,
Seattle sentiment.
Fran, I want one more scouting report from you.
Okay.
And it is from 2020.
Okay.
And this is going to be because when the Eagles explain what they've done in free agency,
Okay.
they're going to say we didn't do much because the biggest addition we made was re-signing Zack Baun. And so I want to know what your scouting report was on Zack Baun coming out as this positionless player.
Yep. So I had him with my edge group coming out because that's kind of how he was. That's how he was used for Jim Leonard's defense. I did give him an average starting grade. Smart pass rusher who can win in a couple different ways. I do like his versatility. I like his toughness. He's a really fun watch. At the end of the day, I don't think that he's going to be a team's A1 rusher, but I think he can be a complementary piece, particularly as a 3-4 Sam linebacker. Could also convert to will linebacker down the road.
Wow, good work.
You
hit it on the
How
head.
about that?
Well, I was very high. I was pretty high on the grade. Man, that was a brutal edge class. Just looking at the other names around him. I'm trying to think. Did I have?
I was
him
going
higher
through
than
some
other
old
players?
photos on my phone, and I
By
typed.
the way, if you're watching on Fast, thank you very much. You've been in it the whole time.
Yeah.
Applause to you. We'll check out the rest of this episode on allphly.com. Go ahead.
I searched Indianapolis on my phone, so it brings up all the photos from Indianapolis, and I found a few Zack Baun photos from the combine a few years ago.
The ZB.
Yeah,
ZB.
I was doing a story on potential edge rush targets, and that was one of the guys I spoke to.
How do you feel about the Zack with a K?
I'm not in favor of it. I mean, I prefer Zack with H, but because I think I've expressed this on the show, Zack with the H is shortening
Zachary.
the name. If you spell Zachary with a K, I don't mind reducing it. But if your given name is Zachary, and then you reduce it to Zach, and you put it with K, you're creating a new name, right?
Yeah.
So that's my objection. This is Zach, because Zachs with Ks will say you're not Zach, you're Zach. And I was like, no, what I'm doing is I'm taking Zachary and just cutting out the ARY, right?
Yeah.
So I don't mind Zach with a C because it's the same, it's still part of your name.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
I feel like the Zack with a C is a little unserious.
Okay. But Zach with a K,
Yeah.
Zach Taylor,
Right.
is with a C, but I only I have more respect for the Zach with a K.
If it's short for Zachary with a K.
Yeah, or if you're not Zachary at all. If you're just Zach on the birth certificate with a K.
Okay.
But shout out to Zach Rosenblatt. Shout out to Zack Baun. Not necessarily in that order, but maybe in that order.
How about the ZAK, like Zach Kiefer?
Yeah, I've less interest in that one. But Zack Kiefer is awesome.
Shots fired. At
No,
Kiefer.
I've told Zach with a K that
That you don't like his name?
I don't like the spelling, but I love the work. Yeah, I mean, sometimes I would gladly take his work any day. And his job is awesome too. But yeah, Zach with a K is awesome. Zack Kiefer.
You don't think he's just going to let that slide by?
What? What? What?
You just extended the show by at least 10 minutes.
Wait, no. What did I say? Something that's gonna be held against me?
Yes.
What did I say?
No, you just made it clear you don't want to have this job. That's all.
I didn't make it clear. He's a national feature writer. That is an awesome job, being a national feature writer. I love my job. But a national feature writer is a different job than the job I have.
As you were saying, a better job.
I mean, it's a great job that he has. It's a different job.
I'm happy to be here with the sickos. This is right where I want to be.
Did you guys remember this with Zack Baun's high school profile? That he was a high school quarterback, option quarterback.
Yeah, I did know that. Yeah.
Had the gray shirt when he first got to Wisconsin because he had never played defense at all. Great dunker in high school basketball. Ran high school track, 100 meter, 200 meter. Great high jumper. Also played the bass in orchestra.
Was it Deer Valley? Is that the high school?
Brown
I
Deer.
had Brown Deer. It was the name of the town. I don't think I don't have the high. I didn't have the high school name back then. I do now. His position coach
At Wisconsin?
Former Eagles assistant
Or
At Wisconsin?
at Wisconsin. This is a note I had written down.
Bill Shuey.
Nope. His father was also a former Eagles assistant in the same era. Known for giving weekly press conferences. That would be
Bobby April Jr.
Bobby April Jr. was his position
nice.
coach at Wisconsin.
Nice. That's a good one.
Yeah.
I think we have a couple super chats before we leave. Kirk says, who do you think on the Eagles roster is most likely to help them move up in the first round of the draft this year?
Oh, good question. So I actually don't know if there's a player that would help them move up, but I think to something Bo has been on top of throughout the offseason, if the Eagles are counting on high comp picks, then I think they'll be more aggressive with picks for next year. Like maybe they'd be more apt to include their second rounder in a trade next year, knowing that they could have they already have 2 third rounders right now because of the Hassan Reddick trade, right? So now if you get a third round comp pick, you know you have 3 third rounders. So maybe
what about the one they traded for Johnson?
That's in
Do they
this
have
year's
3?
draft. That's this year's draft.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
You're right.
next year, if they get a third round comp pick, they have 3 third round picks.
Yeah.
So maybe they're like, all right, we'll package our first and our second next year to move up into the late teens.
That's a good point.
So I can see that. I honestly don't see a player that they have really moving the needle with that. As we've talked, or as you guys talked about before I came on, Dallas Goedert's market isn't. You're probably looking at the highest being a 4th is my guess. I don't think any of the if they traded Sidney Brown, I don't think Sidney Brown's netting you that much. I don't think they're trading from their offensive line. I will say this, by the way, one thing I should have mentioned earlier, a move that I thought could happen today was a Cam Jurgens contract extension, which obviously has not happened yet. But
And the Drew Dalman contract, probably good in terms of figuring out what that's going to be like.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
All right.
any other super chats?
The Bengals are bringing back Samaje Perine, and the Jaguars have signed De'Ami Brown.
It was like Jason Light quote tweeted Dove Kleiman because Dove Kleiman tweeted out, or I don't even call it reported, but tweeted out that the Bucks were signing Samaje Perine, and Jason Light quote tweeted and said, "No, we aren't."
Here you go. The Broncos are signing.
Talanoa Hufanga.
Yep.
What do we have
Good
terms?
save.
Nope. Man,
fun player to
De'Ami
watch.
Brown. De'Ami Brown's getting that.
He's getting that Tutu Atwell.
Yeah,
money.
got that Tutu Atwell money.
Yeah.
Man.
1 for 10 up to 12.
He did some good things for Washington down the stretch.
Yeah.
De'Ami Brown.
Yeah. All right. Here's the deal. We are going to close this show, but we're staying here. We are at the ready for an emergency podcast for, I would say, a very low bar. Any Eagles player coming or going, we're going live. Might be short, might be long, but we're going to be here. We're going to hang out. So you stay tuned to the news as we are, and hopefully we will see you soon a lot over the next, 48 hours, 72 hours or whatever. And if not anything before tomorrow at 2 o'clock, we're back here in studio, 2 o'clock. So much to look forward to. Actually, we also have the draft show tomorrow at noon.
Yes.
So we're going to see lots of you. Thanks for watching and hanging with us for the last 3 hours. Thanks for the super chats. Thanks for the BJ Hill jokes. And a pretty,
a couple more beers to drink over there.
not really. Just got the one. So anyway, thank you to Julia and Chris for making it all happen. We will talk to you later, whenever. 3 years, 45, including $20 million guaranteed for Hufanga. That's a lot of money.
He's a
good player when healthy,
When
but
healthy,
yeah.
that's the big thing.
Okay, interesting. All right, so for Fran and Zach, we thank you for watching and listening. We are ready at the drop of a hat to go live again, so stay tuned to that. But for now, we thank you for watching and listening, and as always, we love you.
We all silly like the mayor.